Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Mythical Apocalypse. Start by hoarding 100,000-year soul rings. Chapter 41. Martial Spirit List. 1. Overlord of Western Chu SSS level rating, 9,340 covering the sky with one hand. 2. Emperor Shin SSS level rating, 9,231 rule the world. 3. Demon Diao Chan SSS level rating, 9,121 page book. 4. Luoshan SSS level score, 9,119 clear water. 5. Jinshan Fahai SSS level score, 9,066 Maha Boundless. 6. Guan Yinping SSS level rating, 9,001 page book. 7. Li Yuanba SSS level rating, 8,730 Cheadianzun. 8. Emperor Wu of Wei SSS level rating, 8,450 I am a South Thief. 9. Li Teibai SSS level rating, 7,930 Tianwike. 10. Wu Jiao SSS level rating, 7,880 Fairy Zuyu. Looking at the martial arts list that was refreshed again, the game exploded again. The list, which had not changed much for more than a year, was listed one after another in less than 2 weeks. Fairy Zuyu looked at the rankings that were about to be squeezed out, and a sense of crisis suddenly arose spontaneously. It's not just her. Great forces such as the Three Kingdoms, the Forbidden City, and Tianweishan all suffered the same impact. There is always a feeling that the storm is about to come. Boss, why don't you give me the entire mythical martial spirit? I will also be on the ranking list to support our union. Inside the Yanyu Tower Station, the marshmallow lover had a dogtail in his mouth, crossed his legs, and joked carelessly to Fairy Zuyu who was sitting behind the desk. Do you think mythology is just cabbage? Fairy Zuyu rolled her eyes at her charmingly, but what? All the members of Yanyu Tower looked up and their eyes lit up. Is there any drama? Fairy Zuyu frowned and said solemnly, the world is not stable recently, so you should speed up the leveling of your subordinates. I read the guide in the one-page book. It is very useful for improving the level of the middle-level members of our union. Xiaotang is responsible for coordinating arrangements for this matter. Love to eat marshmallows and make an OJBK gesture. Immediately, Zuyu looked to the side at the beautiful royal sister who was wearing a white gauze hat, a plain white dress and a tall and exquisite figure. Fuyao, you are responsible for acquiring hidden tasks, or clues and information related to rare martial arts. The resources in the Union warehouse can be mobilized as you wish. Fuyao nodded slightly, then turned and left. Boss, it doesn't look like your previous style of doing things like this. A hall master approached Fairy Zuyu and asked in a low voice. Fairy Zuyu frowned slightly and sighed. There are some things that I can't say more about, but you have to remember that our time may not be much. The heavy tone made many hall masters change their colors instantly. Everyone present was Zuyu's confidant, and they also knew very well the identity of their president in the real world. There were some secrets involving the country that she couldn't say much about, so she could only rely on vague hints to tell everyone. But, time is running out. What does that mean? Think of the recent natural disasters and frequent disasters in the real world. It's really hard not to get lost in your imagination. This situation also occurred in other Union locations. To be able to gain a foothold in this second world, any leader must be a powerful person or a hegemon in a certain field. They have their own news channels. The speed at which the news is received is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Suddenly, the originally peaceful game world stirred up a huge wave. A large number of secret realm copies were discovered by major guilds, and huge wars even broke out to snatch them. The result of the war was to completely detonate the seeds of hatred among the players of the major guilds. Once this thing gets involved, it is easy for people to want to spend money to improve their strength and get revenge. For the overall game environment, this adds a deformed but cheerful atmosphere. Regarding this, Cao Shuang's head was a little big. Holy crap, when did the price of soul rings increase so much? In a sparsely decorated box, Cao Shuang looked at the price of soul rings on the trading shop, his face turned frighteningly dark. The good news is that he successfully squandered the 60 million gold coins in his hand before the price of soul rings skyrocketed, down to just over 5 million left. The bad news is that it will be much more difficult to acquire soul rings in the future. Dong dong dong. Come in. There was a knock on the box door, and Bai Shokai walked into the room with a slightly anxious expression. Brother Yi, have you known something for a long time? The unreasonable question made Cao Shuang freeze on the spot. Seeing that Bai Shokai's expression was serious and didn't look like he was joking, Cao Shuang scratched the back of his head and said, "What do you mean you already knew something?" Bai Shokai frowned. Have you already anticipated the current situation when you purchased low-level soul rings before? Forehead. Cao Shuang was speechless. The current situation. He himself doesn't know what the situation is now. The emergence of natural disasters completely disrupted his plans. It is completely beyond the plot I knew in my previous life. This can be described as a fatal blow to the reborn. Because they don't know what will happen in the future, it is equivalent to losing the memory of past lives. Fortunately, Cao Shuang still has a lot of trump cards in his hand. In other words, the early arrival of the end of the world is not an absolute bad thing for him, but it is like a fish in water. After all, he didn't know much about the plot in the game, but he knew the post-apocalyptic situation well. Now he possesses dual mythical martial souls, and Ah Yin is covered in golden soul rings, which is enough for him to walk sideways in the apocalypse. Compared to others who were panicking, Cao Shuang was obviously much calmer. Lao Bai, sit down and speak slowly. Cao Shuang patted the handle of the chair and motioned for Bai Shokai to sit down and talk. Seeing Cao Shuang, whose expression remained unchanged despite the collapse of Mount Tai, Bai Shokai felt a chill in his heart, thinking that he still needed to work harder. Look at Brother Yi, how calm he is. No matter what happens, you can deal with it calmly. This is the attitude a boss should have. Brother Yi, I'm telling you the truth. Bai Shokai began to tell all the news he had learned. Cao Shuang was also secretly shocked after hearing this. Unexpectedly, officials and some forces started to speculate on the integration of games with reality. As a result, they began to purchase large amounts of martial soul beads and soul rings of various years to enhance their respective strengths. No wonder the prices of items in the trading house have increased so much. You can understand it if you think about it. The emergence of the Black Myth virtual game remains a mystery. More than 200 countries around the world have joined forces and have been unable to find any official traces of the game. The sudden advent of the virtual world has made it difficult for officials from various countries to associate all kinds of incomprehensible things with it. But we can't treat everyone in the world as fools. There are many smart people in this world. Brother Yi, do you know some inside information? Shirakami is indeed a Shirakami. Through Cao Shuang's abnormal behavior in the past few days, and the dungeon he was asked to investigate, he was able to reveal mythical martial spirits every time. Combined with the current situation, he had reason to suspect that Cao Shuang's true identity was anything but simple. It is very likely that he is an internal manager of Black Myth Games, commonly known as Game GM. If it were a game administrator, then it would make sense that the other party could easily obtain a mythical martial spirit. Cao Shuang touched his nose and said with an awkward smile, "Old Bai, you are so imaginative and you are not making a movie. Can we be more serious?" The corner of Bai Shokai's mouth twitched. "Then you should reveal some information to me, right? Just mention the price. If it's inconvenient, just pretend I didn't ask." "It can't be said, it can't be said." Cao Shuang waved his hand and refused to communicate firmly. Rebirth is too mysterious. It is also Cao Shuang's biggest secret. How could such a special trump card be exposed casually? In the end, Lao Bai, who didn't ask anything, could only return disappointed. Before leaving, Cao Shuang left a message, "Time is running out," and left the game world. This can be regarded as repayment for the favor he owed to Bai Shen in his previous life. As for how much you can understand from these 5 words, Cao Shuang firmly believes that with Lao Bai's IQ, he will definitely live up to his expectations. Back to reality. In the taxi, Cao Shuang took off his virtual glasses and looked out of the car. It's dusk. The thunderstorm gradually subsided, and the downpour turned into light rain at some point. The sky is still cloudy. It's like Cao Shuang's mood at the moment. This weather, please don't let it rain again, otherwise the national highway will be flooded. The driver had a cigarette in his mouth and complained, "Master, how long will it take to reach the destination?" Crazy Xiaotao was not online this afternoon, and Cao Shuang had a bad feeling. This made him urge him. It's almost there, it will take another 2 or 3 hours. The driver raised his eyes and glanced at Cao Shuang. Young man, you seem to be quite nervous. Yeah, Cao Shuang said vaguely, there's something urgent at home. I have to go back and deal with it quickly. Does your family own a bar? That's right. Cao Shuang didn't bother to explain, so he just closed his eyes and rested his mind. The driver is also happy to relax and focus on driving. Soon, under the guidance of the navigation system, the taxi with a Kyoto license plate slowly drove into the city of Chongqing. 9 page M. When the taxi arrived at the door of XXX bar, young men with yellow hair and scantily clad girls walked into the bar one after another. Master, leave a phone number and I will detain you when I return to Kyoto. Okay, boss, go slowly. Cao Shuang got out of the car and went straight to the bar to find the person in charge and asked about Shen Luwei's situation. Boy, who are you from Weiwei? The person in charge is a fashionable man, wearing a floral shirt and earrings. Although he had a professional smile on his face, his tone was not very friendly. Cao Shuang said in a deep voice, she is my girlfriend. The person in charge was startled when he heard this. Shen Luwei actually got a boyfriend. When did this happen? However, people who work in this field have long been highly skilled in the ability to observe words and emotions. Haha, it turns out they are boyfriend and girlfriend. Don't worry, little brother, we are a regular bar here and we don't do anything illegal. Weiwei is safe working here. The expression on the person in charge's face suddenly softened a bit. Cao Shuang's lips twitched. Do you really believe this? However, he was too lazy to elaborate and went straight to the topic. Where is she now? It's not her time to go to work yet. Why don't I open a booth for you and wait? No. Seeing this, Cao Shuang couldn't find any useful information, so he had to wait in the coffee shop opposite the bar. There are only 3 places where you can find Crazy Xiaotao. Bars, rental houses, the hospital where my mother is hospitalized. He was worried that he would miss Crazy Xiaotao if he searched elsewhere. Just guard the most dangerous and most trouble-prone bar. In this way, at least her personal safety can be guaranteed. Inside the hospital, Shen Luwei looked at her mother lying on the bed in the operating room, her face full of pain. From the moment her mother was pushed into the operating room, Shen Luwei's heart never calmed down. Although the doctor said that the success rate of the operation was as high as 70%, Shen Luwei was still uneasy. Her mother is her only support and her only relative in this world. Shen Luwei couldn't imagine how she would survive after losing this spiritual support. Mom, don't worry, I will definitely save you. Shen Luwei clenched her fists, and the surgical sheets in her hands were crumpled because of too much force. At this time, several doctors walked out of the ward. Doctor, how is my mother? Shen Luwei hurriedly stepped forward and asked. The leading doctor took off his mask, shook his head solemnly, and said, although the operation was successfully completed, it is still unknown whether your mother can recover due to her poor health. We here recommend that the patient be observed in the ICU for a period of time first. We cannot guarantee the specific hope of survival. The doctor's words made Shen Luwei tremble all over, and her face instantly turned pale. She grabbed the doctor's sleeve and begged, Doctor, please help me. You must cure my mother. We will do our best, you go and pay the fee first. Looking at the bill of expenses handed over, Shen Luwei felt dizzy. In the past, the monthly medical expenses were only more than 100,000 yuan, but she could barely make ends meet by working hard. But once you enter the ICU and the equipment goes off, it costs hundreds of thousands a day. She barely scraped together the money for her mother's surgery by relying on the wool she collected from Cao Shuang. Now I can say that I am penniless. Where could she find so much money all of a sudden? Thinking of this, Shen Luwei felt difficulty breathing and her head was so painful that it felt like it was splitting. Okay, good doctor, I will find a way to get it together. Shen Luwei gritted her teeth and replied, turned around and ran out of the hospital. Looking at the direction she was leaving, a nurse couldn't bear to question her. Dr. Wang, you clearly know that there is little hope of treatment, why do you still? Shut up, Dr. Wang scolded, what do you know? Are you going to let the patient die on my operating table? I can live for 2 more days if I move to the ICU. If I die on the operating table, how will you let other colleagues see me? Listening to Dr. Wang's cold and ruthless words, several colleagues around him chose to remain silent. But, you know the financial situation of the patient's family, aren't you pushing others into a pit of fire? A colleague on the side complained about Shen Luwei. Dr. Wang raised his eyebrows and retorted sharply, "What? I let her mother live for 2 more days, what else was wrong with me?" As soon as these words came out, there was suddenly no sound around. A gunshot went off, but they couldn't see who fired it. Because the man is standing in the sun. Stand on the moral high ground. ... After walking out of the hospital, Shen Luwei looked around at the bustling night scene with busy traffic and bright lights, and looked around blankly. Where am I going to find that much money? The cold night wind, mixed with tiny raindrops, instantly restored her calmness. The only way I can think of at the moment is to borrow money from a 1-page book. Among the people she knew, there was only one person who could spend that much money on 1 page of a book. Return to the rental house immediately and put on the virtual glasses. However, what is disappointing is that the avatar of a page of a book that is usually online 24 hours a day is gray today. Why? But, it's today. Boom. Shen Luwei took off the frame and beat the table angrily, tears welling up in her eyes. There must be a way. There must be more. Shen Luwei wiped away her tears and showed a determination that her peers could not match. Suffering can destroy a person, but it can also make a person successful. And she obviously belongs to the latter. The only one who can defeat yourself is yourself. Just don't give up. No one can defeat themselves. She started contacting every boss she could. But when I heard that they wanted to borrow money, they all had a cold refusal attitude. Until she called the bar manager. As soon as the call was connected, Shen Luwei said impatiently, "Manager Li, this is Shen Luwei, and I need some money." "How much?" came the lazy male voice on the other end of the phone, who didn't seem to take her words to heart. "Maybe 300,000, maybe 500,000. Shen Luwei struggled to spit out a few numbers. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. It took a long time before he spoke again. "Are you kidding me?" "I'm not kidding, I really need this money. Whatever it takes." "Yes," Shen Luwei agreed without hesitation. She had no other choice. "Come to the bar and I'll help you think of something." After hanging up the phone, Shen Luwei rushed to the bar immediately. But she obviously didn't realize the other meaning in the other person's words. At the same time, Li Si glanced at Cao Shuang, who was looking forward to it in the cafe opposite, and gave the boy next to him a look. "You guys will hold him back for a while, don't let this kid ruin our good deeds." After that, Li Si picked up his cell phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, several luxury cars appeared at the door of the bar. "Li Si, if I can't take down Shen Luwei today, I will smash up your garbage bar." "Li Si, if I can't take down Shen Luwei today, I will smash up your garbage bar." Accompanied by shouts and curses, a middle-aged fat man with tattoos in a suit and leather shoes, wearing gold and silver, strode into the bar surrounded by several bodyguards in black. Upon hearing this, Li Si smiled apologetically and quickly stood up to greet him. "Brother Zhao, you are here. Sit down quickly, I have prepared the VVVIP box and have been waiting for a long time." Mr. Zhao snorted coldly and went straight to the sofa to sit down. "Li Si, don't show off, just tell me where Shen Luwei is." Mr. Zhao crossed his legs with a gloomy look on his face. "Oh, Brother Zhao, please don't be impatient." Li Sipe smiled and said, "That girl is in urgent need of money now. Wait, we just do this, then that, and finally. Jia Jia Jia." He pretended to be vulgar, causing Mr. Zhao to laugh wildly. "Ha ha, you kid, you are getting better and better at what you do." Mr. Zhao gave a thumbs up and praised. "Brother Zhao, thank you for the award," Li Si said modestly. "Okay, if this is done, our Black Dragon gang will protect your situation from now on." Mr. Zhao decided to take action and gave some instructions to the bodyguards in black beside him. Immediately afterwards, Li Si made an appointment with Shen Luwei, who had arrived for the appointment, in the VIP box on the second floor of the bar. When Shen Luwei arrived, the box was already full of people. In addition to Mr. Zhao, there were 7 or 8 young gangsters with hair of various colors and more than a dozen princesses. The appearance of Shen Luwei caused everyone to turn their attention. "Oh, Wei Wei, I heard that you are very short of money." The first time he saw Shen Luwei, Mr. Zhao's eyes widened. His lustful eyes fell on her proud curves, and he made a gurgling sound in his throat. Seeing this scene, Shen Luwei subconsciously stepped back. It turned out that this was what Li Si meant when he said he would help her come up with ideas. "If you dare to walk out of this door today, your mother will not be able to continue to live." Mr. Zhao knew how to exploit Shen Luwei's weakness and threatened fiercely. Shen Luwei gritted her teeth, wishing she could rush forward and strangle this inferior thing to death. But in order to save her mother, she had to bow her head and compromise. Taking a deep breath, Shen Luwei tried to maintain her composure and said, "Whatever you want me to do, just say it." Readily, Mr. Zhao laughed loudly, reached out and patted the sofa, motioning for Shen Luwei to sit down. Shen Luwei suppressed her disgust and fear, slowly moved over and sat down, staring at these people with vigilant eyes. Mr. Zhao took out a check from his arms and handed it over, and ordered in a charitable tone. "Here's 500,000. If you drink a few glasses of wine with me, you can treat it as interest." "How about that?" "Just a few glasses of wine." Shen Luwei frowned. "Of course, what else do you want? If you want to have love with me, I would be happy to accompany you, ha ha ha." Mr. Zhao smiled lewdly and glanced at Shen Luwei's curvy figure unscrupulously. There was a burst of obscene laughter in the box. Looking at the faces of these people, Shen Luwei felt extremely nauseated. But this is her only chance to save her mother. No matter how disgusted she is, she must grit her teeth and endure it. "Since you don't want to, forget it, we won't force you." After saying this, Mr. Zhao stood up and prepared to leave. "I promise." After all, Shen Luwei was unwilling to lose her last hope, so she risked her life. It was just a few glasses of wine. Over the years of working as an atmosphere team member in a bar, I had already developed the ability to walk through all kinds of grass without getting a blade of grass on my body. Every time she encounters those men's dirty tricks, she can deftly resolve them. Even if he is drunk, he can still escape unscathed by relying on his personal skills. Of course, I also encountered many overbearing guests who wanted to take her away by force. But Shen Luwei wasn't easy to mess with either. She didn't know where her fighting talent came from, and she was able to fight off waves of thugs. As the times increased, no one dared to use force on her. The key point: we now live in a society governed by the rule of law, and none of the big guys who can still prosper today are not the brainless fools of the old days. They dare not do anything that breaks the law. The price is too high. It was the superposition of various factors that led to the drinking game tonight. He, wouldn't it have been better if we had done this earlier? Mr. Zhao gave Li Si a look, and the other party understood it and pushed a cocktail that had been added in advance to Shen Luwei. Shen Luwei glanced at the 500,000 life-saving money on the table, hesitated for a moment, raised her neck and drank the glass of wine. After drinking the cocktail, Shen Luwei's pretty face turned slightly red, adding to her charm. Mr. Zhao and his group could see an evil smile on their lips. "Come on, let's play music and dance." Li Si waved his hand, and as the passionate melody sounded, the hot-bodied beauty in the middle of the dance floor twisted her waist and danced intimately. After pouring glass after glass of strong liquor into her stomach, Shen Luwei soon felt a little ecstatic. Her breathing became a little rapid, and her eyes gradually blurred. Inside the cafe, with his keen hearing beyond ordinary people's imagination, Cao Shuang clearly captured the movements in the bar. As early as the moment Shen Luwei stepped into the bar, he had already noticed it. But today's Shen Luwei looked naked, which was very different from the heavy makeup in the photo. He couldn't be sure for a while. After all, a woman before makeup and after makeup are two completely different people. It wasn't until he heard the conversation in the box that he confirmed Shen Luwei's true identity. Just when he stood up and was about to take the person away, a dozen bar staff arranged by Li Si blocked the door of the bar. Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows, his eyes flashed coldly, and he said in a deep voice, "Get out of the way." "Haha, friend, are you here to cause trouble?" one of the long-haired young men asked with a smile. Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows and vaguely guessed who was behind the scenes. He couldn't help but sneer, making trouble. No, 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 I just want to beat everyone to death, or be beaten to death by you. Cao Shuang's indifferent voice was as cold and bone-chilling as the frost in the nine-nether purgatory. Hearing this, more than a dozen staff members gasped involuntarily. This guy is so brave. He dares to be so arrogant. A strong man cursed. Hey, I heard that he is Shen Luwei's boyfriend. After Mr. Zhao is done with it, let's try something new. By the way, in front of his boyfriend, we can train this little slut Shen Luwei well. The other people all laughed lustfully. Hearing the dirty words in his ears, Cao Shuang's face turned livid. Some people just like to seek death. You said that if a moron like you jumped out, wouldn't everything be fine if you were beaten obediently? If you insist on adding drama to yourself, you will lose your life in vain. Boom. Cao Shuang didn't want to talk nonsense. He rushed over and kicked the strong man who was blocking the way. Then he picked up the street sign chair at the door of the bar and swung it wildly, smashing 3 blockers away in an instant. The remaining 6 or 7 people were startled and immediately gathered around with bottles of wine. You dare to cause trouble in the Black Dragon Gang's territory, brothers will copy this guy and destroy this little. Boom. Before he finished speaking, Cao Shuang knocked him to the ground with a bench, covering his head and wailing. In just half a minute, more than a dozen people lay on the ground in confusion and screamed. Cao Shuang snorted coldly, ignored the horrified looks from passers-by, and walked towards the bar. At this time, everyone in the box was still unaware of the approaching danger, and was still playing the game enthusiastically. Shen Luwei now felt like the world was spinning, and her eyes were full of double images. She's not bad at drinking. There is only one possibility for this situation. She had been drugged. I don't want this money anymore. Shen Luwei barely maintained a trace of reason and struggled to get up from the sofa. Just as she was about to leave, someone grabbed her clothes. Haha, say no now. It's too late. Mr. Zhao dragged her back to the sofa, drank a large gulp of the strong wine in the glass, and threw himself at Shen Luwei with a grin. Let go. Shen Luwei struggled desperately, but she was exhausted and could not resist Mr. Zhao's power. Just when she was about to be attacked, a loud shout suddenly came from outside the private room. Mr. Zhao, it's bad, Shen Luwei's boyfriend is here. Even if the King of Heaven comes today, I will still do what this woman does. As soon as he finished speaking, the door was smashed with a click, and then Cao Shuang walked in swaggering with a bench in his hand. A group of guys who were singing and dancing were stopped in place by a sudden scene. Crazy Xiao Dao, let me go for a day, and the lost work fee will be deducted from the training fee when the time comes. What? Deduct money? As soon as she heard that her wages would be deducted, Shen Luwei, who was already unconscious, suddenly woke up. Immediately, she picked up the empty bottle on the table and threw it at Mr. Zhao's head. Boom. Ah, anyone who violates a woman's will by improper means shall be punished with a sentence of not less than 3 years but not more than 10 years. Zhao Laosan, believe it or not, I will call the police now. Shen Luwei's eyes widened angrily and she threatened fiercely. Good guy, are you so familiar with the laws? Have you often used this to intimidate guests? Cao Shuang also thought about having a hero save the beauty, directly capture the heart of crazy Xiao Tao, and thus take the future god of thunder under his control. Result. Well, it seems a bit redundant. Mr. Zhao covered his bleeding forehead, pointed at Shen Luwei and yelled, Smelly fool, you are looking for death, aren't you? With that said, Mr. Zhao slapped the table and stood up. Come on, kill this fool. Quote. After waiting for a long time, no one moved in the box except himself. The expected scene of a group of bodyguards rushing into the private room did not appear. Only then did Zhao Laosan realize that something was wrong. He quickly looked around and finally focused his gaze on the face of Cao Shuang, who was carrying a bench. No matter how stupid Zhao Laosan is at this time, he still knows that he has hit a brick wall today. This guy is obviously not an ordinary person, otherwise how would he dare to enter the tiger's den alone? Boy, that guy on the street. Tell me your name. Hearing this, Cao Shuang grinned, showing his white and neat teeth. On the path of socialism in China, where did you end up on? A look of panic appeared on Zhao Laosan's face, and he choked back what he wanted to say. You're too cruel, let's go. Li Si, this matter is your fault. I will settle it with you later. With that said, Zhao Laosan called his companions and staggered away. Li Si in the box turned pale instantly. I originally thought of using Shen Luwei to get on the fast ship of the Black Dragon gang. Unexpectedly, I failed to rape him, but I was raped instead. Not only did he not get on the boat, he also offended the boss of the Black Dragon gang. This thing is like tricking my father into Grandma's house. But it's too late to say anything now. You fool, ruined my good deeds. Li Si was so angry that he raised his hand and wanted to give Shen Luwei a slap in the face to vent his anger. Shen Luwei narrowed her eyes, dodged, then raised her leg and kicked Li Si in the crotch. Ouch! A shrill howl of wolves and ghosts echoed through the box. Li Si clamped his legs and rolled on the ground in pain. Crack! After doing this, Shen Luwei seemed to have ended her time for reflection. She fell limply to the ground, her cheeks as red as apples, and looked at Cao Shuang in confusion. I will be on the line right away. You wait, you can't deduct my wages, hiccup. As he spoke, he couldn't help but let out a whine burp, and fell dizzy towards the corner of the glass table behind him. Whoosh! Cao Shuang quickly reached out and grabbed her arm, then dragged her into his arms and held her. If you can't drink, just don't drink so much. He sighed softly, then hugged Shen Luwei and walked away. Fortunately, Cao Shuang knew the address of the other party's rental house. So holding the sleeping Shen Luwei, he found her easily. Putting Shen Luwei on the bed, she just covered her with a thin blanket. Shen Luwei's stomach surged with acid, and she lay on the bedside and vomited a brilliant rainbow. Perhaps feeling a little more comfortable, she slowly opened her eyes, and vaguely saw a handsome, slightly childish face in profile. Who is this? Why am I here? Shen Luwei's mind was filled with doubts, but what was even more strange was the strange feeling coming from her body, which made her want to get closer. So she moved her tired body to the boy's side. Her soft and boneless body gently pressed against his broad and warm chest. Feeling a soft touch on his chest, Cao Shuang felt his nostrils heat up. But when he thought of what the other party had just said, more than 3 years and less than 10 years, he quickly took a deep breath and suppressed the evil fire in his heart. You should take a nap first, and we'll talk about it if you wake up if anything happens. Without saying a word, Cao Shuang forced her into the bed and prepared to get up and leave. Hey, you, don't leave. At this time, Shen Luwei, who was half asleep, spoke quietly. The voice was soft and waxy, like talking in a dream. I seem a little weird. She shook her dazed head hard, struggled to hug Cao Shuang's waist, and then continued to mumble. You're so cold. Let me hold you for a while. Hearing this, Cao Shuang's heart beat violently and his whole body became unbearably hot. Not only that, he actually had an inexplicable desire. This desire is called a man's instinct, commonly known as hormones. If you don't let go, I can't guarantee what will happen. He lowered his head and stared at Shen Luwei's exquisite and beautiful face. His throat was dry and he swallowed several times with difficulty, but finally he hardened his heart and reminded her. Although he is not a gentleman, there is almost no resistance to a beauty like Shen Luwei. If there was no audience around, he might just follow his heart. However, there are still 2 beautiful girls in the Wuhun space who are eating melons and watching movies. I don't care, I just like cool, hugs. Shen Luwei shook her head, her pretty face flushed, muttering confusedly, and actually pulled Cao Shuang to the bed. At this moment, the last sanity was defeated. The other party took the initiative first, and everyone in front of the screen has to testify for me. A sultry, charming and lingering battle begins. The next morning, the heavy rain stopped and the clouds dispersed. A ray of dawn shot through the window, reflecting the lazy sleeping posture of the 2 people. Suddenly, Shen Luwei opened her eyes suddenly. The downed brain resumed work, and countless memories came one after another. Thinking of all the shameful scenes last night, Shen Luwei's pretty face turned red. Last night, I actually killed this fool. For a moment, Shen Luwei was in a state of confusion. She quickly broke away from Cao Shuang's arms, pulled the quilt to cover her attractive body, and then hurriedly got out of bed to get dressed. But a sharp pain made her legs weaken, and she almost tripped and fell to the ground. Hiss! Shen Luwei screamed in pain, her pretty face turned extremely pale. Hearing the movement here, Cao Shuang, who was sleeping soundly, gradually opened his eyes. The two people's eyes met each other at this moment. An awkward atmosphere enveloped the room. Shen Luwei's cheeks became increasingly red, and she finally turned her head and ran out the door as if running for her life. Hiss! What kind of medicine did Zhao Laosan give her? It has such strong stamina. Cao Shuang rubbed his body that was about to fall apart and tried to remember what happened yesterday. Forget it, don't even think about it. He finally understood the name of Shen Luwei's game called Crazy Little Dao. She really went crazy like a lioness and couldn't resist it at all. Cao Shuang's skin covered with scars at this moment is the best proof. One can imagine how intense the battle was last night. In the living room, two people with different thoughts could not sit still and stopped talking. After a long time, Cao Shuang was the first to break the silence. He coughed and asked, is there anything to eat? Oh, yes, I'll give it to you. Okay. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere fell into awkwardness again. I'm talking about noodles. That's what I said. It's okay if you don't explain it, but the more you explain it, the more confusing it will be. Shen Luwei's face was as red as a ripe red apple, and she was so beautiful. As if he couldn't stand the atmosphere at the moment, he ran into the kitchen in a panic and got busy. 10 minutes later, the two of them each held a bowl of Master Kong's braised beef noodles, tacitly choosing to stay silent and munching furiously. It wasn't until the 2 portions of noodle soup bottomed out that Shen Luwei asked in a tentative whisper. Can you lend me some money? Shen Luwei bit her pink lips and her pretty face drooped slightly. Just 500,000 is fine. I will find a way to pay you back as soon as possible. Cao Shuang knew that she wanted to lend money to her mother for medical treatment. This investment was just a drop in the bucket for him, so he readily transferred 500,000 to the other party's bank card. Thank you. Shen Luwei was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect this guy to be so talkative today. Correct. She suddenly remembered something, raised her head and asked, how did you find me? Can I say money ability? You can't say that you hired a private detective to investigate you, right? He acts like a perverted stalker. Jingle bell. Before Shen Luwei could say anything, her cell phone rang suddenly. I saw the caller ID was the hospital, so I quickly picked up the phone. The next second, the originally rosy cheeks suddenly turned extremely pale, even mixed with a hint of panic. When Shen Luwei and Cao Shuang rushed to the hospital, they saw a heart-wrenching scene. She saw her mother lying on the hospital bed, dying. Her chest was filled with IV tubes, and her vital signs were disappearing rapidly. Several doctors stood outside the ward, but they were indifferent when they saw this situation. It's not that I don't want to save, but it can't be saved. Mom, wake up, don't scare me, woo. Seeing this, Shen Luwei rushed over and hugged the woman on the hospital bed, crying heartbreakingly. The woman on the hospital bed opened her eyes weakly, reached out and touched Shen Luwei's hair with a weak voice. Girl, Mom is sorry for dragging you down for so long, it's time to get rid of it. Her voice was staccato, breathless, but full of pleading. Who is this? Mother noticed Cao Shuang and couldn't help but ask. Shen Luwei wiped away her tears and looked back with sadness and confusion in her eyes. It seems that there is still numbness and despair about life. That look was like a pool of stagnant water that could no longer stir up any ripples. Cao Shuang sighed, stepped forward and said softly, Auntie, I am Wei Wei's boyfriend. I'm sorry that I was out of town before and just came to see you now. Boyfriend. Shen Luwei's mother was stunned for a moment, then her smile became even brighter and she became more and more relieved. Okay, my girl will be in charge of you from now on. She used all her strength to overlap their hands. Girl, birth, old age, illness and death are normal. Mom can't stay with you for the rest of your life. You will have to say goodbye sooner or later, so don't be sad. From now on, you two young couples will live a good life. Mom is tired, take a rest, stop tossing. Mother Shen's eyes gradually dimmed and she slowly closed her eyes. Vital signs completely disappeared. This is an irreversible loss. Mom, don't leave me. Mom. Shen Luwei knelt on the ground and cried loudly. Cao Shuang looked at Shen Luwei, opened his mouth, and finally said nothing. He didn't know how to comfort him, and he couldn't understand the pain when a loved one died. After all, he has been an orphan since he was a child. Mother Shen's funeral was very simple. Apart from Shen Luwei and Cao Shuang, there are no other relatives. On the day of the funeral, Cao Shuang accompanied Shen Luwei at the cemetery until late at night. After returning to the rental house, she didn't say a word. She was in a daze, and even her expression seemed empty. Although Cao Shuang sympathized with her experience, the deceased had passed away, and he could not stay in Yucheng to accompany Shen Luwei to slowly heal her inner trauma. I'm going back to Kyoto tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? Quote. Shen Luwei seemed not to hear, curling up on the bed with her arms folded in a daze. Cao Shuang was also a little overwhelmed by this. What's this called? Forget it, I'll stay for another 2 days at most. If it doesn't work, I'll take it back by force. The next day, it was bright and clear. Cao Shuang was gently shaken awake from his sleep. When he opened his eyes, he saw a pretty face that was pale and bloodless. He was so frightened that he peed on the spot and hurriedly turned over and sat up, rubbing his sleepy eyes and glaring at the other party. I'll go, I'll scare you to death. Shen Luwei wore a loose sweater, trousers, a pair of flat sandals, a high ponytail, and no makeup. This look is quite eye-catching. It's a pity that there is deep numbness and dullness in those ethereal beautiful eyes. She whispered, let's go. Only then did Cao Shuang notice that Shen Luwei was still holding a suitcase in her hand. He wondered, where to go? Shen Luwei didn't say anything, but pulled her suitcase and walked out the door. I'll wipe it, just wait for me. Cao Shuang hurriedly put on his clothes and chased out. In a taxi, Shen Luwei looked out the window at the city she had lived in for more than 20 years and gradually faded away, feeling inexplicable confusion in her heart. After losing her way forward, she became a lost lamb. I don't know where the road ahead is, I don't know where the future is. She felt like a small boat drifting in the ocean, uncontrolled, drifting with the current, and unable to catch any driftwood at all. In the back seat of the car, Cao Shuang didn't know how to comfort the other person, so he silently handed him a pair of virtual glasses. Go and relax, he suggested. After taking the glasses and putting them on, Shen Luwei's thoughts became clear. She turned her head and stared at this strange man who suddenly broke into her life, wondering what she was thinking in her heart. After a long time, he suddenly said, thank you. Cao Shuang grinned, you're welcome. Tianxing City. The two returned to the game and wandered around the crowded streets to relax. Cao Shuang was surprised to find out. The topic of conversation among passers-by changed from the original one-page book about the twins myth to the new goddess Shui Qingqian. Clicking on the martial arts list and looking at Luoshan, the martial soul ranked 4th, a bunch of question marks suddenly appeared on Cao Shuang's head. Strange, isn't Luoshan the martial spirit of the human demon water god? Where did this clear water come from? Cao Shuang was puzzled. Holy shit, brother, you don't even know the famous goddess Ling. Suddenly, there was a burst of ridicule from passers-by. Ah, who are you talking about? Cao Shuang was slightly startled. The most beautiful woman in Kyoto, the youngest president of the Ling group, the goddess Lin Xian. Passers-by looked at him with disdain, as if they were looking at a country bumpkin. Cao Shuang was stunned when he heard this. Goddess Lin Xian. Why did this woman get into the game? He even stole the water god's martial spirit. It's chaos, everything is chaos. Cao Shuang was horrified to find that the plot line of this life had completely deviated from the track and was even confusing. Is the butterfly effect so exaggerated? I don't seem to have done anything. Cao Shuang murmured to himself. What's the mess? What butterfly? Crazy Xiaotao next to him was confused. Cao Shuang shook his head, not intending to dwell on this issue any longer to avoid wasting his brain cells. As long as the location of those rare props remains unchanged, it will not have much impact on his subsequent plans. As for Lin Xian, the contracted girlfriend, if there is no accident, she probably won't meet her. Nothing, just keep taking me to level up. Crazy Xiaotao didn't ask any more questions. She still owes Cao Shuang hundreds of thousands in medical expenses. The borrowed 500,000 yuan was not fully spent on the intensive care unit, but only 300,000 yuan was left. After the refunded fees were returned to Cao Shuang, he still owed more than 100,000 yuan. The bar job is gone, and now I can only work in the game to pay off my debts. By the way, I saw that your soul ring was too stretched on your crotch, so I gave you a new set. As they walked, Cao Shuang took out 7 black 10,000-year soul rings and handed them over. What do you mean? Crazy Xiao Tao frowned and looked at Cao Shuang. It's not interesting, I just asked you if you want it. Cao Shuang shrugged and smiled, looking indifferent. Neither of them mentioned what happened that night again, as if it never happened. Crazy Xiao Tao just regarded it as an accident and did not make a fuss about it. This made Cao Shuang feel inexplicably indebted. No need, just sell it for money. Crazy Xiao Tao's face was expressionless. Is it the 3 melons and 2 dates that I need? I'm the boss now. If I give it to you, you can take it. Cao Shuang glared at her impatiently. Then he forcefully pushed the 10,000-year soul ring into her hand. The current relationship between the two is a bit subtle, and Cao Shuang doesn't know how to describe it. Neither boyfriend nor boyfriend can share everything with each other. They are not as distant as ordinary friends. After all, what was supposed to happen happened. Anyway, their current relationship is awkward. In addition, Cao Shuang could not explain the truth about the impending end of the world. Simply, put on a tough attitude and let Crazy Xiao Tao not refuse. After a moment of silence, she silently took the soul ring and said indifferently, "Is this considered a night fee?" "Bow, bow your sister, bow." Cao Shuang yelled angrily, slightly embarrassed, "Remember to pay me back later." "Oh." Crazy Xiao Tao snorted and returned to his previous indifferent attitude. Right now, the system's announcement suddenly sounded above the heads of all players in the server. Ding! Countdown to game anniversary celebration, 24 hours. Activity content, 10-day volley. During the event, a large number of Balrogs will be randomly refreshed in the wild area, along with a large number of prizes and treasures. We hope that all players will actively participate. Hehe, it seems that the third myth has been found. The arrival of the celebration event caused an uproar in the game. Since Black Myth does not even have an official website, players cannot receive any notices or event instructions at all. But this does not affect their enthusiasm for the game's anniversary. Every time a celebration starts, it's a big reshuffle. The old masters on the rankings have risen to the top by relying on the rare martial arts spirits they obtained during last year's anniversary celebration. This has to make all parties ready to take action. Let's go, no more leveling, follow me somewhere. Cao Shuang called Crazy Xiao Tao beside him and came to Tianshuang City among the 36 main cities. In the last life, there were celebrations before the end of the world. It is exactly the same as this life after rebirth. Cao Shuang heard a little about it. The specific details are unclear, but the general gameplay of the event is clear. 10 days in the sky. The earth was scorched by the scorching sun. Any player who leaves the main city will be given the Fire Poison debuff. Fire Poison will continue to increase as time goes by, the player's attributes will be weakened, and blood loss will continue. If you want to clear this effect, you can only return to the main city or take special potions. But the most convenient thing is to wear the special mineral near Tianshuang City, Freezing Stone. At the same time, the Freezing Stone can also serve as an ice blast grenade, causing tons of damage to Balrog monsters that randomly spawn in the wild. It is the most popular consumable item during the event, bar none. That's why the value of freezing stones, which were originally cheap and could be seen everywhere, has increased dozens of times. It happened that Cao Shuang had almost spent all the funds in his hand, and he was ready to take the opportunity to make a fortune. There is a mountain range in the southeast corner of Tianshuang City. The mountains are covered with heavy snow and the wind is freezing. Current area, Longji Snow Mountain. Recommended player level, 45 to 55. What are we doing here? Crazy Xiao Tao followed to the foot of Longji Snow Mountain, looked up at the majestic peaks that penetrated the sky like sharp swords, and unconsciously shrank her neck. This place is too cold, and few players are willing to come here to level up. Who makes the virtual world too real? Even the temperature is designed to be extremely realistic. If you are not careful, you may catch a cold. Kill the dragon. Cao Shuang's words were concise and concise. Ha! Dragon's back Snow Mountain will refresh the ice-type alien beast Ice Dragon Lizard. I need the materials they explode. Good. Split up and work faster. Quote. Okay. Feng Xiaotao glanced at Cao Shuang, whose level at the moment was stuck at LV 55. As long as you don't encounter the rare boss in the current area, there is basically no danger. So he picked up the Thunder Sword and disappeared into the heavy snow. Cao Shuang is not idle either. There are only 24 hours left before the event starts. By then, Longji Snow Mountain will be surrounded by thousands of players. He must collect enough freezing stones as soon as possible. By the way, Cao Shuang also handed over the remaining 5 million gold coins to Lao Bai and asked him to help find material dealers to purchase materials. Lao Bai is also a human being. I immediately thought of the upcoming celebrations. Judging from the official announcement issued by the game, this event must be related to the high temperature. There must be a reason for the one-page book to collect freezing stones at this moment. So he asked his subordinates to collect materials together. As for how much he can earn in the end, it all depends on Lao Bai's own courage. In this regard, Cao Shuang also turned a blind eye. After doing all this, he headed deep into the Longji Snow Mountain without stopping. Not long after walking, 5 ferocious dragon lizards about half a meter long and covered in ice crystal scales appeared in front of them. Monster. Ice Lizard Normal. Level 50. HP. 960. Skills Ice Spike, Hail, Ice Blade. Introduction: a special dragon lizard with a trace of ice dragon blood. It likes to live in groups, has a bad temper, and often fights with each other. Ah Yin, here comes my lord. 5 golden soul rings unfolded layer by layer, and the terrifying soul power aura instantly filled the entire world. Immediately afterwards, Guan Yinping held the crystal Yanyu sword and stood proudly in the sky. Ouch! Ang! The 5 dragon lizards neighed together and roared to the sky, intimidating all directions. Cao Shuang crossed his arms and watched the changes. He also wanted to see Ah Yin's true combat power. The result was a huge disappointment. Cut! Ah Yin fell with his sword, and the sword energy turned into an ice dragon and swept out, cutting the 5-headed dragon lizard into pieces. -1362. -1362. -1362. As the 5 damage figures floated up, the 5 dragon lizards were killed instantly, without exception. That's awesome. Cao Shuang, who still wanted to see how strong Ah Yin was, gave up his mind completely. Ah Yin was stronger than he imagined. The mobs here can't even hold her back with a single hit, look at it. My lord, look. Ah Yin stepped forward with a smile and took out a shining crystal core from the monster's corpse. Frost Stone +1. Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows slightly. Very good, continue. Ang. Ah Yin wields the crystal Yanyu sword, like a female war goddess, invincible. In just 10 minutes, Ah Yin then swept across the outskirts of the snow mountain with a crushing force. As the two of them continued to deepen, the types of monsters began to increase, and their attributes and levels became higher and higher. Cao Shuang even met the elite level ice dragon lizard. But Ah Yin was still extremely relaxed. If you can't kill it with one knife, use 2 knives. The frozen stones in the space package accumulate at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon it reached thousands. This amount of materials is not enough. The explosion rate of the surrounding mobs is still too low. Ah Yin, don't worry about these mobs. Let's go to the depths of the snow mountain to find the boss. Hold head high. Ah Yin nodded and headed towards the depths of Longji Snow Mountain. Cao Shuang followed closely behind. All the way north. The surrounding wind and snow gradually became denser, and the line of sight was seriously obstructed. Roar. There were roars in the distance. Along with the sound, there were fierce fights. Someone is fighting the boss. Cao Shuang's eyes narrowed slightly. How can there be players in a place like this? It seems like an immortal dynasty. Suddenly, a voice came out from beside me. Cao Shuang was so frightened that his hair stood on end and he quickly turned around to look. You walked silently. You scared me to death. The person who came was none other than Crazy Xiaotao, who came to look for the boss with the same idea as him. Feng Xiaotao didn't answer, but stared blankly at the 5 golden soul rings surrounding Guan Yinping. Red soul rings are already very rare. What level is gold? Does this game have a golden soul ring? Don't look at it, it's just a million-year soul ring, nothing strange. A million-year soul ring. Crazy Xiaotao was horrified. This guy, do you want to listen to what he is saying? A 10,000-year soul ring is worth over 1 million gold coins, and 100,000 is a sky-high price, and there is no market for it. That million. How many zeros are there? Cao Shuang ignored her and just stared silently at the fierce fighting scene in front of him. I saw hundreds of players fighting a giant ice dragon lizard. There is no doubt that their names all have the suffix of Immortal Dynasty. As the saying goes, enemies are extremely jealous when they meet. Hey, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge, but it's never too late for a villain to take revenge from morning to night. Don't stop treating, and pay attention to your position in the front row. Don't stop for me as an output assist. Once the speed is over, I won't be able to stay in this place for a moment. The leader of the Immortal Dynasty conducted the team in an orderly manner. Come on, Crazy Xiaotao, who was hiding behind the snowdrift, quietly tugged at the corner of Cao Shuang's clothes. Not in a hurry. Cao Shuang shook his head and observed the battle intently. It was easy for the two of them to destroy this group of players. But the problem is that in this case, the identities of the two people will be directly exposed. By then, Longji Snow Mountain will be blocked by the Immortal Dynasty, and it will be twice as difficult to go in and collect frozen stones. He had to think of a way to get the best of both worlds. I took a look at the Ice Dragon Lizard boss's blood volume, which was still 60%. With this group of players whose average level is only 60, I guess it would take less than 20 minutes to complete it. In this case, I'll keep an eye on you here. Go and look for a stronger boss nearby. Hearing this, Crazy Xiaotao's feet flashed with lightning, and he left quickly. Cao Shuang stood there and waited patiently. 10 minutes passed, and some people on the Immortal Dynasty side could no longer hold on. After being slapped to death by the boss's tail, he turned into white light and returned to the resurrection point. Brothers, hold on, the boss still has 20% of his health. After finishing this shot, our mission for today will be completed. The leader is a middle-aged man in his 40s named Wang Yang, with a level as high as 70. He is the leader this time. The guild is currently tackling a very large hidden mission. One part of the quest requires you to submit a piece of ice dragon marrow. Their team just happened to receive a search mission issued by the guild's top brass. As long as they get the ice dragon marrow, they can get a lot of contribution points in exchange for rare equipment and soul rings in the guild warehouse. It's hard to say what the Immortal Dynasty's character is like, but its treatment is definitely generous. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many players willing to sacrifice their lives for the guild. Interest is the eternal driving force. Roar! Suddenly, the ice dragon lizard roared and opened its mouth to spray cold air. In an instant, a biting cold current swept through the surroundings, and several front row players were immediately frozen and turned into sculptures. The boss is going berserk. There's still 10% left, give me a few seconds to focus the fire. Wang Yang shouted, holding the flaming machete Wuhun, and rushed forward first. The others followed suit. Boom boom boom. In an instant, various skills hit the ice dragon lizard boss. The health bar began to drop rapidly from the original 10%. 8%. 0.7%. 0.6%. 0.5%. Hope is just around the corner. Just a little short of 100 million. Ouch. At this moment, a deafening tiger roar resounded throughout the snowy area. A black striped tiger covered in jet black scales rushed into the crowd on the thick ice. Why is there another boss? A group of people on the Immortal Dynasty side exclaimed. Wang Yang's expression changed drastically, and he quickly stepped back, retreat. Others were also panicked. They are in extremely poor condition at the moment and there is absolutely no way they can withstand the second boss attack. How could Cao Shuang, who was hiding in the dark, miss this opportunity? Take advantage of his illness and kill him. The Bingso bow appeared in his hand, and he drew the bow to the full moon. Call out. A sharp ice arrow flew through the air. Poof. Wang Yang didn't react in time, his head was immediately penetrated, and his body slowly collapsed. Without a commander, the scene was in chaos. The black-striped tiger swatted them all to death with one paw at a time. Hey, Xiao Tao, go and heal that ice dragon lizard with residual blood. Ah Yin, you go deal with the black-striped tiger. I'm going to clean up the battlefield. The three of them worked together in perfect harmony. Soon, the black-striped tiger fell unwillingly in a pool of blood under Ah Yin's almost crushing attack. Cao Shuang counted the harvest. The two bosses dropped nearly 3,000 frozen stones. There is also a special material, ice dragon marrow. Hundreds of players died and dropped a bunch of junk equipment and more than a dozen thousand-year soul rings. Give it to Little Red Hand to fuse, which is equivalent to about 2 10,000-year soul rings. According to the current market price of soul rings, the total sum of 0 and 0 is at least 1.5 million. It has to be said that the Immortal Dynasty is simply a cash machine. What do we do next? Crazy Xiao Tao ran over and asked. What you're asking is, free tool man plus rich cash machine plus free whoring boss, of course you can continue. These guys will definitely come back to pick up the dropped equipment and soul rings. Quote. You continue to look for the boss and attract the boss to the path they must pass. I'm going for a walk in the depths of the snow-capped mountains. I can't delay business. Cao Shuang gave the order and turned around to leave, leaving crazy Xiao Tao standing there blankly. Can you still kill monsters like this? She blinked and felt that Cao Shuang was simply a genius with no morals. Wrong. Am I not a power leveler? Why did he become his subordinate inexplicably? Except for the freezing stone and soul ring, everything else is yours. In the distance, Cao Shuang's sudden voice came, making crazy little Dao tremble. That's what you said. Turning around, he saw that Cao Shuang had disappeared into the heavy snow with his martial spirit. Feng Xiaotao smiled and touched his pocket, happily continuing to look for the boss. Soon, the sound of lively fighting and crazy curses from the players could be heard from halfway up the snow-capped mountain. I'm sorry, Grandma, can anyone tell me why there are level 70 bosses outside the snowy mountains? Quickly shake me, I can't stand it anymore. A cloud-piercing arrow, thousands of troops and horses come to meet each other, ah. Deep in the snowy mountains. Cao Shuang avoided all monsters along the way and headed deeper. Husband, where are we going? Diao Chan also walked out of the martial spirit space at some point. The two women, one on the left and one on the right, followed Cao Shuang like guardians. I remember there is a hidden map deep in the snowy mountains, which contains plot props related to the event boss. Warning, warning, you have entered the dangerous area, the Ice Cave of Death. Current regional recommendation level, 70 to 75. Crack. As soon as he finished speaking, the ice under Cao Shuang's feet suddenly cracked. What followed was a violent falling sensation. Cao Shuang's heart skipped a beat. You won't fall to death directly, right? Fortunately, underneath the ice cave is a 10,000-year ice pool. Although it is extremely cold, it is not fatal. Boom. A splash of water rose from the bottom of the ice pool. All three of them became drowned rats. Ding. Affected by the extreme cold effect, obtain debuff, cold poison. Cold poison. When the surrounding temperature is too low, the player will continue to lose blood, 1% per second. Special map effect, cannot be purified or cleared. -11, -11, -11. The red damage font crossed over Cao Shuang's head. If the heat source cannot be found within 100 seconds, he will die directly. Husband. Diao Chan's soft voice floated over, I'll help you with the treatment. Cao Shuang suddenly beamed. Do you know medical skills? Diao Chan shook her head shyly. You can use your body to keep warm. Cao Shuang's mouth twitched. You are also a genius. Miss Sir, I can also help. Ah Yin weakly raised his little hand. Don't cause trouble. Cao Shuang glared at the two women and said seriously, let's go ashore first. The two women nodded obediently. After climbing into the ice pond, waves of biting cold attacks made the two women shiver uncontrollably. Their pretty faces were pale and their eyes were filled with tears. They were really pitiful. Does this game need to be so real? Fortunately, I was prepared, Zhongjong. Cao Shuang took out a Molotov cocktail and threw it directly at the feet of the three of them. Boom! The fire exploded. In an instant, the three people were enveloped in raging fire. Now, it's not cold anymore. The corners of the two women's mouths twitched. Good guy. It turns out that this is how Molotov cocktails are used. The Molotov cocktail caused more than 100 points of damage to Cao Shuang. But he successfully contained the cold poison. After drinking a few bottles of healing potions, his condition returned to its peak. It's so cold here, I'm going back first. Diao Chan flicked her foxtail and turned into pink mist and flew into Cao Shuang's body. However, a waning moon mark lit up between Cao Shuang's eyebrows. If he needs it, he can directly call upon Diao Chan's soul skills. This is the difference between mythical martial spirits and ordinary martial spirits. It can fight independently or rely on the player's body. Even a novice with poor skills can become a master in seconds. This is also the reason why, after Jai Junji obtained the mythical martial soul, he directly rose from a third-tier weakling to the ranks of high-end players. Ms. Sir, I'm not afraid of the cold. Ah Yin's horizontal sword stood in front of Cao Shuang, his beautiful eyes full of perseverance. This is the hidden feature brought by attributes. In addition to being able to deal high amounts of elemental damage, it can be said to have almost no impact when encountering special weather and environments. Even, the damage in the ice and snow can be improved. Like now. Okay, let's go in and have a look together. Cao Shuang took Ah Yin's little hand and walked deeper. The closer you get inside, the cooler the temperature becomes. But the harvest is huge. There are a lot of frozen rocks here. Get rich. Cao Shuang and Ah Yin were very excited. Hundreds of frozen rocks are scattered all over the ice cave, emitting light blue fluorescence, like crystal night lights, shining dazzlingly. Kakaka. Just as Cao Shuang was about to reach out and pick, the ice surface suddenly shook. Immediately afterwards, dense breaking sounds continued. Mister, be careful. Ah Yin pulled Cao Shuang and took a few steps away. Just hearing a muffled boom sound, the ice suddenly exploded, sending up broken ice all over the sky. A dark, round spherical object sprang out of the pit and landed in front of Cao Shuang and Ah Yin. Elemental life. Cao Shuang was stunned. He didn't expect that the enemy actually had such a high-level elite monster. Monster Ice Slime Elite. Level 70. HP, 3866. Skills, Split, Freeze Cannon, Quick Recovery. Introduction, Special life forms that mutate in extremely cold environments. They have extremely strong defense power and are large in number, extremely dangerous. Puff puff. The ice slime who failed in the sneak attack roared angrily, took a deep breath, and bulged his body. Freeze Cannon. The ice slime opened its mouth and sprayed out a ball of concentrated ice cone, carrying a whistling sound and shooting towards Cao Shuang. Don't hurt my husband. Ah Yin Jiao shouted, raised the knife and hit a level with one blow. The dragon-shaped sword slashed towards the ice slime with a fierce wind. Bang! The sword energy hit the slime and stirred up a circle of ice chips. -678. The ice slime retreated in pain. It turned its head and glanced at Ah Yin. The scarlet pupils were filled with bloodlust. Who? Slime roared angrily and charged forward again. The first soul skill, Huan Yu. Cao Shuang used Diao Chan's skills to stun him for 10 seconds. The second soul skill, Chenkin, Kill. Ah Yin took the opportunity to attack. Chenkin slashed 3 times in a row. The first sword enters the hegemonic body, and the damage is increased by 200%. -1056. The second sword becomes invincible, and the damage is increased by 200% again. -1580. The third knife enters the unselectable state, the damage continues to increase by 200%, and additional elemental damage is added. -2449. Bang bang bang. The light and light of swords intertwined into one. The ice slime's health bar dropped crazily. Finally, with a crisp sound of click, the ice slime fell to the ground, turned into a pile of ice crystals, and exploded with a piece of equipment and a century-old soul ring. Good guy, so fierce. Cao Shuang was speechless, and he had a deeper understanding of Ah Yin's combat power. You know, he is only level 55 now. The equipment he wears is also rubbish. But even with such unsightly attributes, with the blessing of Ah Yin's soul skills, he can kill level 70 elite monsters in one move. It is also an elite monster with extremely strong defense. Too fierce. If I take good care of my equipment and upgrade my level, wouldn't I be able to split the dragon's back snow mountain with one sword? Miss Sir, are you okay? Ah Yin ran up and asked. As long as you are here, what can happen to me? Cao Shuang rubbed a Yin's head, and the beautiful girl with bright clothes and an angry horse suddenly lowered her head shyly. Let's go, time waits for no one. Your remaining 3 soul rings are all dependent on these freezing stones. Ah Yin nodded, like a loyal guard, guarding Cao Shuang. A large number of slimes encountered along the way were all reduced to undead by Yin's sword, without exception. The ice cave map was much larger than the two of them imagined. It extends in all directions, and sometimes falls into deeper areas. But the advantage is that the larger the map, the more frozen stones are scattered everywhere. The number of freezing stones in Cao Shuang's backpack has reached an astonishing 230,000. But these are not enough. His goal is more than 10 million coins, and there is no limit. The more of this kind of hard currency, the better. Miss Sir, look over there. Ah Yin suddenly pulled Cao Shuang's arm. Following the direction of her finger, Cao Shuang looked up and immediately narrowed his eyes. I saw a huge cave at the end of the ice cave. An elegant and noble ice blue dragon was lying quietly deep in the cave. Dark blue scales covered the whole body, with only the head exposed, and his eyes were closed tightly, as if he was in a deep sleep. The body size is at least more than 30 meters long. The huge body gives people an inexplicable sense of oppression. Hidden boss. Cao Shuang licked his lips. If I could capture this boss and scrape some of its scales every day to sell them as frozen stones, I would definitely make a lot of money. Who? Suddenly, Binglong opened his eyes and stared at Cao Shuang with his violent eyes. What the? Are you awake? Cao Shuang was startled. The ice dragon was obviously impatient, breathing heavily, and stood up slowly, flicking its tail, and a burst of cold mist suddenly appeared. Sensing the danger approaching, Diao Chan hurriedly walked out of the martial spirit space and blocked Cao Shuang with a yin. Monster, Frozen Dragon, Boss Level Hidden. Level 75. HP, 100 pieces. Skills Cold Breath, Ice Fury, Dragon Power, Ground Claw, Dragon Scale Bodyguard. Evaluation: the terrifying monster sealed under the snow mountain has unimaginable strength and is good at controlling ice elements. It is an extremely difficult existence. After reading the information, Cao Shuang swallowed secretly. Level 75 Ice Boss. A full 20 levels higher than him. And it's also a special hidden boss monster. Without any hesitation, Cao Shuang directly put the last million-year soul ring on Diao Chan. The sense of crisis brought to him by the freezing dragon was too terrifying, and he had no choice but to increase his own combat power to its peak. If the boat capsizes in the gutter, there will be no place to cry. Diao Chan let out an extremely comfortable moan. Her fair skin gradually became transparent, emitting a light and soft fluorescence, and her figure became more slender and graceful. The fourth pink fox tail stretched out, its furry tail swaying. Her appearance became more and more stunning, making the surrounding air warm, and people couldn't help but be intoxicated by her charm. The palace in the sky has nowhere to return to. Don't look back. The dream has passed forever. The fourth soul skill, the Waning Moon. Last quarter moon. Releases the Waning Moon effect on enemy units, reducing defense by 50%. Diao Chan formed a seal with her jade hands and whispered softly. In an instant, her aura became chilly. Buzz. A crescent moon slowly rose into the sky, releasing a bright and cold light, illuminating the entire cave. The ice dragon was affected, its eyes trembled slightly, and its huge body froze in place. Kacha. Diao Chan formed another seal, and the light of the crescent moon spread, rendering the surrounding space with a layer of blurred and dreamy brilliance. The first soul skill, Huan Yu, Rise. A pink full moon appeared above the ice dragon's head at some unknown time. The ice dragon's movements completely stopped, as if it was imprisoned. The second soul skill, Crescent Moon, Rise. It's not over yet. The white moonlight shines on Ah Yin's body, and a mini moon slowly rotates around her body. Crescent Moon. Generates a crescent moon shadow, increasing the damage of friendly units by 20%. The third soul skill, Waxing Moon. The half-moon wheel was generated from Diao Chan's hand, then spun at high speed like a shuriken, swung hard, and hit the ice dragon hard. Ding! -354. Well, the hurt is touching. But what kind of damage does God-level support require? I saw a debuff suddenly appear on top of the ice dragon. Crane Moon. Attack power reduced by 20%. After a silky combo, the ice dragon was stunned. Cheating is okay, but can you not do it so obviously? Long Long also has dignity. Hi, it's so cold, sister. I'll leave the rest to you. Husband, I'll go back to bed and warm myself up. Come on. He can only be handsome for 3 seconds. After releasing all the buffing effects, Diao Chan hugged her furry tail and returned to the spirit space with trembling arms. Who asked you to wear so little? Looking at Diao Chan's graceful back, Cao Shuang sighed in his heart. But now it is obvious that we are not concerned about saving fabrics, but how to deal with the big guy in front of us. Roar. The ice dragon raised its neck and let out an angry roar. It seems that he wants to shatter the phantom moon and the crescent moon in the sky. However, all these are just special effects of skills, like fishing for the moon in the water, but in vain. Ms. Sir, protect yourself and wait until I get this officer's head. Ah Yin smiled sweetly at Cao Shuang, and then a red rabbit horse slowly formed under her body. The martial saint appears and is invincible in the world. The 5th soul skill, one ride can equal 1,000. Zheng, Long Ning Yanyu dragged the knife, leaving a terrifying ravine on the ground. Yu, the red rabbit horse galloped like lightning and began to circle around the ice dragon. The damage calculation method of the 5th soul skill is somewhat special. The longer the dragging knife charge is, the more exaggerated the final damage bonus will be. For every meter dragged, the damage will be increased by 10%. While the ice dragon was still in the imprisoned state of Wanyu, Ah Yin maximized the damage. I can't imagine what an astonishing effect this knife would have. Call out. White cold air spurted out from the Yanyu sword, exuding a destructive aura. Ah Yin's overall momentum also increased with the increase in the number of circles, and finally reached a certain critical value. A majestic killing intent filled the air, making the hair on the ice dragon's body stand on end. Ouch! The ice dragon looked up to the sky and roared, its huge body shaking violently. It seemed to feel the threat of death. What appeared in front of it was not a woman, but a terrifying scene of thousands of troops, charging cavalry, and numerous swords and guns. Boom! As 10 seconds passed, the fantasy moon above the ice dragon's head shattered, and the power of confinement dissipated at this moment. It's now. Ice breaks the ground, kill. Ah Yin's eyes were determined and he moved forward indomitably. Lift the knife and chop. Puff. Shwashwashwashwashua. The Yanyu knife struck down, and the violent damage instantly exploded. Ouch! The ice dragon whined in pain, and the huge wings on its back and its tail covered with ice scales were thrown high into the sky, sprinkling scarlet red all over the sky. -89,932. While dealing huge amounts of damage, it couldn't bear the force and slammed its body against the rock wall. Boom! The ice and rocks cracked, and smoke and dust billowed. Cao Shuang was stunned. This guy is too tough. The damage almost broke 6 figures. If Ah Yin were a little faster and ran 2 more laps, wouldn't he be able to kill the ice dragon directly? Awesome. Although he secretly felt happy in his heart, Cao Shuang did not forget about business. The boss's health bar has basically bottomed out, with only 10% left. Often this is the real decisive moment. All bosses whose blood volume falls below a certain threshold will go berserk. If there is a slight mistake, the boat will capsize in the gutter. Ouch! A roar echoed through the cave. I saw the ice dragon standing up again, with thick white smoke coming out of its body. It looked up to the sky again and roared, its eyes filled with blood and madness. Even though he was covered in blood, he was still extremely ferocious. The ice dragon glared at Ah Yin, opened its bloody mouth, and endless aurora converged into the huge mouth. Its cold breath. Ah Yin, be careful. Cao Shuang's expression changed and he hurriedly warned. But this is obviously redundant. For Guan Yinping, who has absolute talent in martial arts, he has already calculated all the evasive routes before the boss is ready to attack. She jumped lightly and nimbly onto a large ice rock next to her. Crack! The next moment, the attack launched by the ice dragon fell. Boom! The ice and rocks exploded, and the cold air raged. The entire ice cave shook and cracked into dense spider web patterns. Yin jumped into the air again, and Long Ning Yanyu raised her head high. The second soul skill, 3 consecutive slashes of heaven and earth. In an instant, the biting cold air swept out, forming 3 dragon-shaped sword auras. The icy blue cold current roared towards the ice dragon with a terrifying tearing force that made your teeth sore. Click. The ice dragon's defense quickly collapsed under Yin's powerful damage. In addition, Diao Chan's crescent moon debuff directly weakens the boss's defense by 50%, and at the same time increases Yin's damage increase by 20%. 3 astonishing numbers jumped out from the boss's head. -2,879. -3,678. -4,278. But that's obviously not enough to be fatal. The ice dragon still has 8 health bars left. Ouch! The ice dragon screamed. Before he could even take a breath, another more brutal attack came. 3 consecutive cuts. 3 consecutive cuts. 3 consecutive cuts. Cut, chop, 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 chop. The terrifying million-year soul ring. Soul skills don't even have a cooldown time. The ultimate move was directly used by Yin as a flat A. 10 seconds later, under the indiscriminate bombardment of more than a dozen dragon-shaped sword energy, the ice dragon fell to the ground and its health tank was emptied. Ding! Congratulations to the player. A page of the book, killing the special hidden boss, gaining plus 60,000 experience points, hidden props, ice dragon's horn. Martial soul pearl. Freeze dragon S +1. Millennium soul ring +1. Frost stone plus 5,000. Pet egg. Little ice dragon SS +1. My lord, luckily you have lived up to your destiny. Yin wiped the dragon's blood on his face and walked forward with a sweet smile. There is no such domineering and heroic appearance as before, wielding the mad sword. Cao Shuang looked at the gentle and lovely woman in front of him, and his heartbeat couldn't help but slow down for half a beat. This kind of virtuous wife can go up to the hall, go down to the kitchen, hammer the ice dragon, and cut down the monsters. It's simply fascinating. Thank you for your hard work, Yin. Cao Shuang rubbed Yin's silky hair and stared at her affectionately. Yin was extremely shy, her face was red, and she looked like a little bird. The two of them were tired of being together. Drop. A sudden sound rang in his ears, interrupting their intimacy. When Cao Shuang read the news, murderous intent came to his brows. What's wrong, Mr. Xian? Yin noticed something strange about Cao Shuang. Xiao Dao is in danger. You, master, mount your horse quickly. A red rabbit horse made of ice appeared under Yin's crotch. Facing the invitation sent by Yin, Cao Shuang was a little at a loss. This thing. Can also be used as a mount. Click. Red Tuma shook his head obediently, as if to say, it's too late to explain, get in the car quickly. Cao Shuang got on his horse without hesitation. The red rabbit's hooves are like the wind, galloping in the snow-capped mountains. Yin, who was tightly hugged by Cao Shuang around her slim waist, raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and a sly look flashed in her eyes. Long Ning walked against the moon, holding on to the ground, leaving a deep ravine wherever he passed. Unimaginable. From the top of the mountain all the way to the foot of the mountain, the damage that will be added up in the end will be outrageous. The other side, outside the snowy mountains. Okay, crazy Xiao Tao, it turns out you are the one doing the trick. Wang Yang stared angrily at the girl in front of him. The surroundings are already surrounded by 3 layers of players from the Immortal Dynasty. The thick black heads are scary to look at. Crazy Xiao Tao was panting heavily while holding the sword, and her pretty face turned a bright red due to the intense exercise. Snowflakes were falling all over the sky. The atmosphere at the scene dropped to freezing point. You killed me 24 times and my level dropped from level 70 to level 56. You don't have anything to say. Wang Yang gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with hatred. Crazy Xiao Tao pursed her lips and said nothing, looking deep into the snow-capped mountains from time to time. Maybe it was because she was plucking the wool too hard that the sheep was completely bald. After Wang Yang's team was wiped out 7 or 8 times by the suddenly refreshed boss group, they finally realized that something was wrong. So I quickly started to shake people in the guild channel. As a result, when a group of people came, they were wiped out by the group, just like the calabash baby giving away to grandpa, allowing crazy Xiao Tao to make a lot of money for nothing. But you can often walk by the river without getting your shoes wet. Originally, she relied on the boss in the Dragon's Back Snow Mountain to deal with the Immortal Dynasty. But as the number of bosses becomes smaller and smaller, more and more players from the other side come to support. Finally, the matter was revealed. Crazy Xiaotao just kept doing nothing, and started a war with thousands of players with one person and one sword. In the past, she might have been worried that her level drop after death would affect her ability to earn her mother's medical expenses. Now she has no worries and no worries. In addition, all the soul rings in his body were strengthened by Cao Shuang, and his strength skyrocketed. Even when faced with the siege of thousands of players from the Immortal Dynasty, Feng Xiaotao was still able to maintain an undefeated situation with his superb operations. He even killed waves of players who came one after another. But her soul power, that is, the blue bar, is limited after all. Crazy Xiaotao gradually ran out of money, and then fell into the current embarrassing situation. If you don't want to die, come and try. Feng Xiaotao sneered, let's see who kills who first. She was holding a long sword, surrounded by lightning, and the electricity crackled. For a moment, Wang Yang and all the players looked extremely ugly. Just look at the death drops all over the ground and you will know how many people Crazy Xiaotao just killed. At this moment, the red name on her head was so bright that it blinded everyone's eyes. Crazy Xiaotao, don't be arrogant. Wang Yang clenched his fists and said, when our large army arrives, let's see if you still dare to be so arrogant. Humph, coward. Crazy Xiaotao curled her lips contemptuously, not taking him seriously at all. This little fool really needs to be dealt with. Brothers, kill that girl. I can't bear this breath, I'll kill her. The Immortal Dynasty players were so irritated by her contemptuous gaze that they raised their weapons and clamored to rush forward and press Crazy Xiaotao to the ground and rub her. However, the thunder is loud and the rain is small. No one took a step at all. After all, they are only peripheral members of the guild, and their levels are generally only in their 50s or 60s. Wang Yang, one of the few high-level officials, has now been killed down to level 56. If nothing unexpected happened, after this matter is over, he will lose his use value and be kicked out of the core layer by the guild. Now the only way to save the situation is to capture Crazy Xiaotao and force her to reveal the whereabouts of a page of the book. Then the merits and demerits will not be equal, but the future will be bright and bright. Why are you standing there in a daze? Give it to me. Whoever can take down Crazy Little Dao will get a reward of 500,000 yuan, I said so. Wang Yang's coercion and inducement finally swayed some players. As the saying goes, there must be a brave man under a heavy reward. Crazy Xiaotao, suffer death. MD, fight it out, kill her, and we'll share the money. With the leader taking the lead, the other players no longer hesitated and pounced on him with their swords raised. Suddenly, the light of white, yellow and purple soul rings lit up frequently in the crowd. All kinds of weird martial arts spirits also emerge endlessly. There are strange-looking weapons. There are unknown strange plants. There are also monsters that exude a terrifying aura. The scene is as spectacular as a AAA blockbuster. Boom boom boom. The astonishing explosion shook the entire snow-capped mountain and caused the snow to rustle. Crazy Xiaotao shuttled among the dense players, flexibly dodging various moves. With her soul power exhausted, she can only rely on movement to avoid skill damage. Hold on as long as possible until Cao Shuang arrives. Crazy fool. Death. Wang Yang laughed loudly, suddenly attacked from the crowd, and chopped off with a knife. Clang. Crazy Xiaotao raised his sword to block it. However, she was knocked back by Wang Yang's whirlwind attack. He staggered back a few steps and almost fell. Crazy Xiaotao gritted his teeth, rolled twice on the ground and immediately got up. Just when she was about to continue to hold on, a long flaming knife suddenly thrust in and struck Crazy Xiaotao on the back with precision. The already small health bar was reduced by half in an instant. Ha ha ha, Crazy Xiaotao, tell me the location of a page of the book, and I will let you die quickly. A pair of big hands directly grabbed Crazy Xiaotao's throat and lifted her into the air. It's about taking juju pills. Cousin. Wang Yang was overjoyed and rushed to greet him. When the other players saw a senior guild taking action, they wisely stopped attacking and stood silently outside the battle circle watching the show. My boss, I will be called Brother Zhao in the guild. Chizao Pil scolded with a sullen face. Also, why didn't you inform me of such important news earlier? This little fool almost ran away. I'm sorry, cousin. Wang Yang shrank his neck, but he was cursing secretly in his heart. If you don't come early, you won't come late, but you just show up when you are reaping the fruits of victory. Mad, you are so shameless. Kai Xiaoyao snorted coldly, turned around and looked at crazy Xiao Tao. Tell me, where is the page of the book? His tone was cold, with a strong evil aura. Hee hee. Crazy Xiao Tao sneered twice. On your wife's bed. Court death. As if he had been stabbed in a painful spot, he became furious after taking the jujube pills. Veins popped up on his forehead, and he pulled off the mask on crazy Xiao Tao's face. Suddenly, a stunning face was revealed. 3,000 black hair hang down on the shoulders and spread on the waist like a waterfall. The pair of bright purple eyes that are good at gazing are even more heart-pounding. This girl is so beautiful. I feel like I'm even more generous than Goddess Ling. Fart, my goddess is the most beautiful goddess in the world. Bah, lick the dog. Onlookers were stunned by crazy Xiao Tao's appearance. Even after taking the jujube pills, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. A trace of greed and lust flashed in his eyes. There are no moral constraints in the game world. A top female player like crazy Xiao Tao can easily arouse the covetousness of male players. There are even some wretched guys who will secretly do some nasty things. Taking the jujube pill, he swallowed hard and said with a grin, since you don't know what to do, I'll invite you guys to watch an erotic show. Cousin, I want to be the male protagonist. Wang Yang is eager to try. Piss off. Is it your turn to do something like this? Zhao Zhaowen glared at him, and then directed the player. Someone, drag this girl to the woods, take off her clothes and hang her up, I will enjoy it slowly. Hearing this, a trace of panic and resentment appeared on Feng Xiaotao's calm face. This fool, he actually wanted to take the opportunity to invade himself. Just you, are you worthy? At this moment, a loud shout came from the mountains in the distance. What followed was a violent shaking of the earth, as if something huge was coming. The ice seals the ground and cuts. Under everyone's horrified eyes, a 100-meter-long ice dragon swooped down from the top of the mountain. The scroll, carrying an extremely violent cold energy, hit everyone like a broken bamboo. Boom! In an instant, a shrill howl resounded through the sky. The ice dragon fell to the ground, and all vegetation, rocks and players within a radius of 100 meters turned into broken ice. Minus 99,999. Minus 99,999. Minus 99,999. A series of shocking injuries appeared on the foreheads of the players. Oh shit, run for your life. Everyone was so frightened that they fled in panic. After taking the jujube pills, my liver and gallbladder were so frightened that I turned around and ran away. However, the ice dragon was too fast and caught up with him in the blink of an eye. After the dragon roared, the earth began to crack and collapse inch by inch. As if unable to withstand the impact of the ice dragon, a ravine more than 10 meters deep was knocked out of the ground. Moreover, it is still expanding and spreading. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of meters have been turned into ruins. He was the first to take jujube pills and was crushed to death on the spot. Fortunately, friendly units in the game world will not be harmed. Crazy Xiao Tao looked at the huge ice dragon shadow passing through her body and was stunned for 5 seconds. When he came back to his senses, the surroundings had long since returned to calm, leaving only death drops and mess on the ground. Are you okay? Suddenly, a caring voice came to my ears, and a familiar black figure slowly appeared. Did you do this? Feng Xiaotao looked at Cao Shuang in disbelief. She never expected that a level 55 player could possess such a terrifying killing move. This is simply beyond the scope of human beings. So be it. Not to mention her, even Cao Shuang himself was a little dazed at the moment. Ah Yin's fifth soul skill is simply a bug. Archimedes once said. Give him a fulcrum and he can lift the earth. Give a Yin an infinite long-distance run-up, and she can split the Black Myth continent with one sword. Even if he is a god, as long as he has a health bar, a Yinjiao can kill him. The only shortcoming is that Cao Shuang's current level is too low, and his soul power value is not enough to support Ah Yin to maintain his soul body for a long time. No, after one slash, the mana level bottomed out, and he was forced to return to the spirit space to recuperate. Quote. Crazy Xiaotao stared at Cao Shuang blankly and said nothing for a long time. Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows, and a warm smile bloomed on his lips. Don't be stunned, take advantage of their resurrection and quickly clean up the battlefield. Hearing this, Crazy Xiaotao came to his senses and quickly stood up to pick up the equipment and soul rings on the ground. 10 minutes later. Hey, the golden belt of murder and arson, the ancients will not deceive me. Looking at the mountains of loot in his backpack, Cao Shuang grinned. Although 10-year soul rings and century-old soul rings cost only a few hundred or several thousand gold coins. But I can't stand the large number. Added up, it can be worth hundreds of thousands at least. Let Zhao Hong hand melt a ring and release several thousand-year soul rings, which is a profit of nearly 1 million. There is no such thing as Minute Maid. Where do we go next? You can't enter the main city with a red name. That's just for ordinary people. For rich people like us, there is no problem. Cao Shuang immediately took out 2 black pills from his backpack. Evil Dan. The red name can be washed away after taking it. Here you go. Cao Shuang handed over the evil elixir to Feng Xiaotao. I remember this thing starts with at least 3,000 gold coins, right? Crazy Xiaotao hesitated. What? We made so much money today, why are we still reluctant to buy a red pill? Hearing this ridicule, Crazy Xiaotao blushed slightly, but did not refute. You know, her backpack is full of various equipment dropped by the players of the Immortal Dynasty after their death. Although most of them were of average quality, 2 pieces of A-level rare equipment emerged from Wang Yang and Chizhao Yaoan. If you take it to a trading house and buy it, it will cost hundreds of thousands at least. Why didn't I think it was so profitable to kill people and buy goods? From now on, if you see the Immortal Dynasty, you will take action. Any hesitation for a second will be disrespectful to the gold coins. Well, just do it. Late at night, the taxi slowly drove into the Nanshan Villa area. You can live here from now on. After getting out of the car, Cao Shuang took Shen Luwei into the villa. Why are you so nice to me? Shen Luwei raised her head, her beautiful eyes shining with brilliance. After so many years of struggling in society, she has already understood that no one in the world will treat you well without any reason. Everything is driven by interests. She wanted to know the reason why Cao Shuang did this. You'll understand in a few days. By the way, I don't like cooking. If I want to eat, I can order takeout or cook it myself. No one is occupying the rooms, so you can just pick one. After leaving these words, Cao Shuang went straight up the stairs and went back to his room to rest. Shen Luwei stood alone in the living room, looking at Cao Shuang's leaving figure, with mixed feelings in her heart. Etc. Cao Shuang, who was about to go upstairs, paused slightly and turned his head. What's wrong? Shen Luwei took a deep breath, bit her red lips, and stopped talking. After a long silence, she finally plucked up the courage to speak. I don't know your name yet. Cao Shuang looked slightly embarrassed. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Cao Shuang. My name is Shen Luwei. Okay, I know. Oh, quote. Cao Shuang scratched the back of his head, feeling that the atmosphere was a bit strange. So he said, don't think too much, just think of it as staying at a good friend's house for 2 days to relax. I didn't mean to support you. No, I mean, you can do whatever you want, which is wrong. How should I put it? It would have been okay if he didn't explain it, but when he explained it, Shen Luwei showed a disgusted look like she was looking at maggots in the sewer. Cao Shuang suddenly felt bad. I would like to say that the way we get along can be more free and casual. You don't need to think about male and female matters, just treat them as brothers and sisters or superiors and subordinates. Shen Luwei looked at Cao Shuang seriously, her tone extremely serious. I understand, you like to cosplay. What the hell, forget it, the more you draw, the darker it becomes, just make it as you like. Anyway, just kidnap the person and bring him to Kyoto. We'll talk about what happens next. Chapter 51. The Residents of the Immortal Dynasty. Young Master Jai, give us another chance. This time it really was an accident. We don't know what that ice dragon is. Kill everyone in seconds as soon as they appear. Jai Junji, also known as Qianlong, with red eyes, kicked Zhao Yaoan and Wang Yang, who were kneeling on the ground begging for mercy. Trash, everything is trash. How much manpower and financial resources have I spent training you, and here's the result. What kind of ice dragon can kill thousands of players in one breath? Do you think I am a fool? Look for excuses and find something decent, idiot, fool, idiot. Qianlong was furious and smashed Wang Yang's nose with one punch. The whole person flew out directly. As a result, before the body had time to hit the ground, the blood bar above his head had been cleared to zero, and turned into a ball of white light and appeared at the resurrection point of the guild station. Qianlong's curses were deafening. The rest of the team members remained silent. They want to explain. At that time, it was really a dragon descending from the sky that killed them all in seconds. I'm not lying. It can be seen that the vice president is so tyrannical and dares to fart one more time, so he can only shrink his neck and shut up. He was afraid that he would offend Qianlong and be kicked to death. Forget it, the celebration will start soon, I don't want to argue with you. Crazy Xiao Tao, right, you'd better pray that you don't run into me. Otherwise, I will kill you two adulterers and adulterers with my own hands. Qianlong snorted coldly, tossed his sleeves and left. The guild members breathed a sigh of relief and slumped to the ground, as if they had collapsed. At the same time, Lingyun Villa, in the attic where birds are singing and flowers are fragrant. Ling Xian was holding a teapot and sitting by the window drinking tea leisurely. Wearing a light blue dress, her black hair is tied into a bun and hangs down on her right shoulder. Her delicate and beautiful face is like a fairy who doesn't eat fireworks. She stared quietly out the window at the scenery. Suddenly, Secretary Fang Miao Miao pushed open the door and entered, holding several photos in her hand. What's the matter? You're so frizzy. Ling Xian frowned slightly and said with some displeasure. Fang Miao Miao immediately said respectfully, Mr. Ling, look at these quickly. She handed the photo to Ling Xian, pointed at the man and woman on it and said in surprise. Ling Xian glanced at it, her expression changing instantly. She stared closely at the picture of Cao Shuang holding Shen Luwei out of the bar, clenching her pink fists and breathing rapidly. Who is this woman? Fang Miao Miao shook her head quickly, confusion written on her face, still checking. I don't understand what this guy is doing when he goes all the way to Yucheng just to pick up a bar girl. Mr. Ling, she doesn't smell good. Ling Xian pursed her thin lips and said nothing. He hasn't even returned to Beijing. After a while, she asked lightly. I came back and brought that vixen back to the villa. Click. The teacup was crushed violently. How dare he bring a wild woman home for the night? Ling Xian bit her teeth lightly, her eyes becoming colder. But when she thought about the fact that the relationship between the two was a contractual couple, she didn't seem to be angry about it. But women always have an inexplicable jealousy and desire to control. Especially strong women like Ling Xian are even more possessive. She couldn't accept her toys being touched by others. Mr. Ling, what should we do now? Ling Xian narrowed her beautiful eyes, with a dangerous light flashing in her eyes. Prepare the car. Hey, are you going to catch an adulterer? I'm going to drive right now. Fang Miao Miao's Bagua heart was burning. How could you miss such an exciting melon-eating scene? ... Villa Hall. Cao Shuang sat on the sofa, crossed his legs, and looked at the two women in front of him without knowing why. Sister, it's early morning now. Is there anything we can't talk about tomorrow? I would be scared if I was alone with a man and a woman. Cao Shuang deliberately pretended to be panicked, but Ling Xian was very angry. Fortunately, she managed her emotions very well, her face was calm, and she could not see any emotional waves. What, did you do some shameful deeds and are you afraid of being exposed? Haha, I, Mr. Cao, have been upright in my life, and I love helping old ladies cross the street. People in the world call me the old lady Terminator. Please don't slander me, or I will sue you for slander. As soon as Cao Shuang finished speaking, Shen Luwei, wearing a thin pajamas and wet hair, stuck out half of her snow-white jade neck from the stairs. Is there a hair dryer? I forgot to bring it. Cao Shuang, Ling Xian, Fang Miao Miao. Wow, cool, so exciting. A weird atmosphere spreads in the hall. Well, you guys talk, I'm going back to the room first. Shen Luwei felt a little embarrassed, turned around and fled back to her bedroom after leaving a word. Inexplicably, I feel like I'm a thief. Who is she? Ling Xian's eyes were burning and she forced Cao Shuang. Holy crap, eldest lady, do you want to take care of my private life? Cao Shuang rolled his eyes. Also, don't look so arrogant, I don't owe you anything. You, Ling Xian frowned. In name, you are still my boyfriend. I can't control how you like to play alone, but. She paused and her voice became serious. As my current boyfriend, Ling Xian, is hanging out with other women, if someone finds out about it, it can become a stain to smear and attack the Ling group. If the market value of the group evaporates as a result, can you afford to pay? Hearing this, Cao Shuang was stunned, then sneered and said nonchalantly, that's your business, what does it have to do with me? It's not written in the contract that I can't fall in love. What do you want to do? Just tell me, I'm very busy. He crossed his arms and looked carefree. Ling Xian disliked this attitude very much. For some reason, she began to miss the submissive Cao Shuang she once had. Unlike this one, who always makes her angry. You. She widened her beautiful eyes and wanted to get angry but couldn't find a suitable excuse. Suddenly, she rolled her eyes, and a hint of cunning appeared in her beautiful eyes. Meow meow, go buy me a few sets of daily necessities. I will live and work here from now on. She ordered Fang Meow Meow. Nani. The corners of Cao Shuang's mouth twitched and he almost spurted blood. Does this woman plan to be with him for a long time? I refuse, he said without hesitation. No one can refuse me. Ling Xian coldly put down a wad of money, then pulled Fang Meow Meow into the bedroom. I think my house is a hotel. I'll give you one night's stay at most, and get out of here tomorrow morning. For the sake of the stack of red notes, Cao Shuang endured the humiliation and roared. Boom! Ling Xian closed the bedroom door. Ha! Fight me, you're too young. Behind the door, she raised her snow-white neck triumphantly, and there was a hint of curvature at the corner of her mouth. No, Mr. Ling, do you really want to live here? Fang Meow Meow couldn't believe it. How about I help you buy the villa next door? No need, I've thought it through. Her beautiful eyes flashed. As deep as ink, I will personally dig out the secrets of this boy. And if you work in the game, it will be the same wherever you sleep. Don't leak my whereabouts, it will save my parents from bothering me, and you can also block those disgusting men. Also, buy me a top-notch gaming cabin. That's all for now, just do as you're told. Her tone was firm and there was no room for negotiation. Fang Meow Meow could only agree, okay, Mr. Ling. Then, what about your personal safety? Do you need to arrange bodyguards nearby? Well, just do whatever you want. Ling Xian nodded slightly and immediately lay down on the soft bed. I'm tired, I'll sleep here tonight. That, okay then. Fang Meow Meow never expected that when she went out to have a meal with her boss, she would actually eat him up. She sighed and left the villa. A night of silence. The next morning, the three of them fell into silence as they looked at the empty dining table. They seemed to be playing a very novel game. It's called, Whoever Makes Breakfast is the Puppy. Hey, I'm hungry. Ling Xian was wearing a lace nightgown, her legs crossed lazily, her cold eyes full of impatience. Come on, make me breakfast. Cao Shuang curled his lips and said, I don't have any hands. This is not a hotel. I want to cook it myself. You. Ling Xian's face was ashen and she gritted her teeth, wishing she could pounce on him and beat him up. How about I do it? Shen Luwei weakly raised her hand, trying to break the deadlock. As soon as he stood up, he heard Cao Shuang order in a tough tone, sit down. I had no choice but to sit down obediently. The two stared at each other, neither of them convinced of the other. Intel, Gulu, Gulu. Ling Xian's stomach growled unexpectedly. Her pretty face was dyed with a hint of crimson, and she looked particularly charming. Do you want to do it or not? If you don't do it, I'll kill you with money. She was arrogant and stood up to the white rabbit, but she was still holding on in a domineering manner. If you dare to smash it, I will do it. Cao Shuang also retorted not to be outdone. Okay, this is what you said. After that, Ling Xian took out a wad of banknotes from somewhere and hit Cao Shuang hard on the face. Finally, he didn't forget to cast a provocative look. Ha, what's so great about rich people? Just wait for me. Cao Shuang didn't change his expression and silently put away the note. Then he took out 3 bills from a thick stack of bills and handed them to Shen Luwei. Work hard, the organization will not treat you badly. Ling Xian, Shen Luwei. I've seen middlemen make money from the price difference, but I've never seen middlemen so black-hearted. This wave of flirtatious manipulation really made the 2 women look stupid. In a blink of an eye, the aroma wafts from the kitchen, which greatly increases people's appetite. Then the 3 of them immersed themselves in the meal without saying a word. Afterwards, Shen Luwei silently cleaned up the dishes and thought it was to pay the rent. After finishing, the 3 of them returned to their rooms and logged into the game. In this way, a wonderful trio was established. Cao Shuang did not reject Ling Xianlai's strange behavior at his house. No matter what, this is a future strongman with a mythical martial spirit who has a high probability of taking over the position of water god in his previous life. As long as you don't cause trouble for him, there's no harm in it. As for whether it will pose a threat to him after the end of the world, then Cao Shuang could only say that it would be a great honor for her not to press her to the ground and rub her. As for Shen Luwei, she seems to be endlessly confused about the future and is standing at a crossroads in life, trying to find a new life goal. Before finding the answer, this became her temporary stop. Ling Xian's purpose is very pure. He completely regarded this villa as a safe house to shield himself from the chaos of the outside world, and at the same time unearth the huge secret behind Cao Shuang's dramatic change in temperament. The woman's sixth sense told her that things were far from as simple as she imagined. 3 people with different thoughts gathered together like this. The key is the inexplicable harmony. It's quite harmonious. Entering the game, Cao Shuang could clearly feel that the temperature inside the game was somewhat unusual. The scorching heat swept across the world, as if we were in a desert. Why don't you make it so realistic? It's okay to suffer in reality. Why do you have to suffer from high temperature in the virtual world? In Tianqing City, a large number of players were miserable and sent their most sincere greetings to the relatives of the game planner. In this regard, Cao Shuang is happy to see the success. The harder the player's life is, the more valuable the freezing stone in his hand will be. I'll pay you back the money I borrowed from you before. Crazy Xiao Tao's cold and sweet voice sounded behind him. She dragged hundreds of thousands of gold coins into the transaction column, and Cao Shuang did not refuse to click OK directly. This woman seems to dislike owing people things. I had just sold a bunch of junk equipment in my hands and exchanged it for gold coins, so I came over. What are we doing today? Continue to kill people. Looking at crazy Xiao Tao, who was a little eager to try, Cao Shuang felt like she had turned on some strange switch. The whole person seemed to be boiling with murderous intent. Let's just cut people off. Our main goal now is this event. Cao Shuang rubbed his chin and thought. Continue to collect materials in Longji Snow Mountain, and practice leveling at the same time. Good. There are still 4 hours left before the event starts at 12 noon. Even if you are idle, you will continue to work on the frozen stone. The more of this stuff the merrier. After returning to the villa last night, Cao Shuang got the 5 million frozen stones from Lao Bai that he had been asked to collect. The current market price of this thing is only 1 gold coin, which is very cheap. Including what he and Fang Xiaotao had collected all night long, Cao Shuang had a total of 5.86 million frozen stones in his hands. There is still a long way to go before the expected goal of 10 million. But it's enough. The purpose of making money is to reach more golden soul rings. But killing is also possible. And killing people seems to bring in money faster. Cao Shuang deposited all his assets in the warehouse. Froststone 586W, Pet Egg, Little Ice Dragon SS *1, Ice Dragon's Horn Special Prop *1, 100,000 Year Soul Ring 38. These are all his current assets. The previous strategy fee was 60 million gold coins, 55 million of which were used to purchase low-level soul rings. Last night, with the efforts of Xiao Hongshou, he successfully harvested 38 red soul rings. The rest of the garbage should be fused and sold. There's no use keeping it. But just to be on the safe side, he also carried a bunch of life-saving tools and 2 10,000-year soul rings. If he encounters danger, he can also sacrifice a soul ring to use a special move. Of course, this scenario is highly unlikely to happen. Yin's terrifying combat power is already a bit beyond the scope. Coupled with Diao Chan's god-level assistance, it can only be described as invincible. Let's go. Silent all the way, the two of them rushed straight towards Longji Snow Mountain. After a while, the wailing sounds of the bosses came from the depths of Longji Snow Mountain. Boss, why are these two evil stars here again today? Adhering to the concept of killing more and earning more, the two of them tortured almost all the bosses deep in the snow-capped mountains. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours passed by quietly. Ding! Anniversary event. 10-day volley is officially launched. Activity content is as follows. An announcement fell from the sky. The general situation was the same as Cao Shuang expected. As the 10-round sun slowly rose, countless flame demons descended from the sky. These guys are huge, ferocious and terrifying. They were covered in fire, like ghosts crawling out of hell. Every 10 seconds, terrifying death flames will be released, burning all surrounding obstacles. The sky was illuminated extremely red, as suffocating as a sea of blood. The earth was scorched, everything withered, and not even a blade of grass grew. Ho ho! Ouch! Countless flame demons roared and roared, shattering the sky and burning mountains and rivers. Ding! The points list has been opened, the event store has been opened, the event boss is being refreshed, and the event plot is being generated. My treasure. If you want it, I'll give it to you, go find it. I put everything in the world there. There was a loud boom, and a huge ice dragon lizard slowly fell down. Cao Shuang and Feng Xiaotao also stopped killing and stood there to check the activity introduction. What Cao Shuang is most concerned about is whether the rewards from this event include mythical spirits. Quickly click on the event mall to view. The first thing that catches the eye is Frost Stone, which sells for 10 points. In addition, there are various types of medicines, elixirs, talismans, seals and other items. Most of them are props used to fight fire poison and fire demons. He scrolled down the interface to the end. Fuso wins the championship, special plot props, 9,999,999 points. Sunday streamer, Soul Skill SSS, 88,888,888 points. Little Golden Crow Pet Egg SSS, 77,777,777 points. No need to guess, Cao Shuang already understood the words, plot props, when he saw them. The Fuso Guigi hairpin worth 9.99 million must undoubtedly represent a mythical martial spirit. Having already had bridal chambers twice, he has already figured out the mythical routine. But Fuso won the title. Which mythical figure is this? The Fuso goddess, or the three-legged golden crow? I have never heard of a great god related to fire in my previous life. Cao Shuang touched his chin with doubts in his heart. No matter what, everything will become clear once you bring Vulcan home. The top priority is how to collect nearly 10 million points. The conditions for earning points are not strict either. Killing an ordinary Balrog will earn you 1 point. Elite Balrog, 10 points. Ordinary Balrog boss, 100 points. Elite hidden boss, 1000 points. Then multiply the points by the tens digit of the boss or monster level. For example, a level 70 ordinary monster has 7*1 points and gets 7 points. The elite boss at level 40 is 4*1000 points, and you will get 4000 points. And so on. Of course, in addition to killing monsters, there are many ways to obtain points. Ordinary players can do some daily tasks during the event. Simple tasks like putting out fires, carrying water, and helping the old lady cross the road. Of course, if you are lucky and trigger the hidden activity task, you will get a lot of points. However, the above methods to collect tens of millions of points are simply impossible for Cao Shuang. Only by killing 1000 level 90 elite Balrog bosses can you collect tens of millions of points. Even if he had the ability to kill, he would have to have so many bosses to kill for him. In this case, there is only one way. That is, Rishan. Shoot the sun down from the sky. 1-page book, team up to kill the Balrog. I don't know if Crazy Xiaotao saw something good in the points mall, but he seemed a little excited. No, it's too slow to gain points by killing monsters. With just 2 of us, we definitely can't defeat those big guilds. Thinking of those forces with tens of thousands of people forcefully occupying monster spawning spots, individual players have no chance at all. Cao Shuang shook his head and rejected Crazy Xiaotao's suggestion. Then what should we do? Feng Xiaotao frowned depressedly. She also wanted to get the event reward early and upgrade her martial soul. Let's go, the freeze dragon should be refreshed. Let's go and refresh it. Cao Shuang, who had planned it long ago, took the lead and walked deep into the snow-capped mountains without explaining much. If you want to survive, the frozen dragon under the Death Ice Cave is the key. The refresh time for ordinary bosses is 12 hours, and the refresh time for hidden or elite bosses is 24 hours. It's been almost a day since the freeze dragon died yesterday, and it's time to refresh. As expected, when the two of them collected the frozen stones scattered around the ice cave along the way, they arrived at the deepest part of the ice cave. A huge dragon head suddenly opened its eyes, and the blue light flashed in its eyes, as if it could pierce the sky. Immediately afterwards, a chill spread, as if it could freeze everything. But it's different from yesterday. Above the frozen dragon's head, there is a small golden crow mark. That's a sign unique to the event. It means that this boss has some inevitable connection with the activity. How do you know there are clues to the activity here? Feng Xiaotao asked curiously. Cao Shuang smiled slightly. It's not good to know too much. Crazy Xiaotao rolled her eyes and pretended again. Forget it, this guy has so many secrets, not least of which is this one. Crazy Xiaotao, you go up or do I go up? Today, Cao Shuang's level has reached level 59, and the two mythical spirits are also ridiculously powerful. There was no need for her as a power leveling agent to kill monsters, he could do it by himself. Then I asked one more question. I don't like being on the bottom, I'll go up. Good. At first, Crazy Xiaotao didn't hear the teasing tone in Cao Shuang's tone. But soon, she reacted. A look of shame and anger suddenly appeared on his face. Abnormal. Cursing under her breath, she stepped away to give Cao Shuang a fighting space. Roar! A loud shout echoed through the sky. Then bursts of tragic wails came out, which was horrifying. Ah Yin held a long knife and slowly stepped out from behind Cao Shuang. Binglong, why are you shouting so loudly? My husband-in-law has been disturbed. Look at the knife, the ice powder cracks the ground, chop. Freeze dragon, why is this fool here again? I just yawned a few times, so I'm not going to get chopped, right? 5 golden soul rings unfolded layer by layer, and terrifying soul power fluctuations swept around. Every time he saw these 5 golden rings, Crazy Xiaotao couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Is this a soul ring? This is obviously a mountain made up of 5 gold coins. No matter how you look at it, it makes people obsessed with it. Don't be envious. If you work hard, I'll change it for you later. Cao Shuang glanced at her, as if he knew what she was thinking, and said with a smile. Quote. Crazy Xiaotao didn't answer, just thinking that he was drawing a cake. A million-year soul ring. It's not like 100,000-year soul ring can be replaced at any time. Even a wealthy woman like Ling Xian, who was backed by a wealthy family, would find it difficult to create a soul ring of this level even if she spent everything she had. But about Ling Xian, what's your relationship with her? Crazy Xiaotao finally asked. Although after that night, she chose to let nothing happen and never thought of holding the other party responsible, she just treated it as an accident. As a result, the relationship between the two is in an extremely delicate state. Respect each other as guests, but not alienate each other, maintaining a safe distance. But the appearance of Ling Xian caused some waves in her heart. Oh my friend, Cao Shuang replied matter-of-factly. Friends? Really just ordinary friends? How? Cao Shuang was surprised and suddenly said, are you jealous? Ha, who is jealous? I don't care. It's okay if you don't care about it. You, okay, I won't tease you anymore. Seeing Cao Shuang's serious look, Crazy Xiaotao was stunned for a moment, then snorted and turned away. For some reasons, I am now her boyfriend on the surface, but we have nothing to do with each other privately. Cao Shuang hates the kind of bloody emotional disputes that arise because of delayed communication. Some things are better discussed. He also didn't want that the sweet love that was supposed to come would end in a bitter tragedy. Especially when he has a good impression of Shen Luwei. Okay, I get it now. After hearing the explanation, Feng Xiaotao felt inexplicably relieved, but didn't say much. He looked as if nothing had happened, but he was a little happy in his heart. But in Cao Shuang's eyes, Crazy Xiaotao always had a cold look and kept away from strangers, making it difficult for people to guess what she was thinking. But that's okay. There is also a military counselor living in his body. Husband, this girl seems to be interested in you. Diao Chan's evil smile rang in his mind. Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows slightly. How did you tell? Oh, women, they are all duplicitous. The more they act indifferent, the more they care. Diao Chan covered her mouth and snickered, looking like an experienced driver. It's a pity that I just want to make money now, and women will only affect the speed at which I draw the sword. Forehead. Just listen to this, Diao Chan doesn't believe men's lies. Roar. A wail of pain sounded from the distance. Feng Xiaotao and Cao Shuang immediately turned their attention. There, Frozen Dragon was being beaten by Ah Yin. I have to say that Ah Yin with 5 golden rings is really too cruel. Even if he fights alone, he can torture the freezing dragon until he cries for his father and mother. The only flaw is that the consumption of soul power is too exaggerated. When Ah Yin bursts out with all his strength, Cao Shuang's soul power can last up to 10 minutes. It seems that we have to find a way to find a recovery spirit, otherwise the 9 major spirits will appear at the same time and they will have to suck me dry. He silently kept this matter in his heart. As for the frozen dragon, it had already turned into a corpse and fell to the ground without moving. Ding! Congratulations to the player. A page of book, killed the hidden boss of the event, gained experience value plus 60,000, event props, Ice Dragon's Horn 1, event points, 7,000. Millennium Soul Ring plus 1. Frost Stone plus 5,000. Ice Bracers A plus 1. Since it wasn't the first kill, what the Ice Dragon exploded wasn't very good. Cao Shuang didn't care about this either. Anyway, his target is just the moving prop, Ice Dragon's Horn. This thing is a key prop for Risshan. Ice Dragon Horn. This is the main material for making sun-shooting arrows. It turns out it was dropped by this boss. Looking at the huge dragon horn with a hint of coldness in Cao Shuang's hand, Feng Xiaotao was shocked. As the event started, a sun-shooting platform appeared in the center of the 36 main cities. If you want to activate the sun-shooting platform, you must find the sun-shooting arrow. If Crazy Xiaotao's guess is correct, as described in the event rules, this celebration will last for 9 days. The hidden boss refreshes every 24 hours. In other words, if you kill the freeze dragon once a day during the event, you will get exactly 9 inches ice dragon horns, corresponding to 9 divine arrows. Exactly 9 suns shot down. Although it is not mentioned how many activity points can be obtained by shooting the sun. But it will definitely not be low. How did you know the content of the event in advance? Suddenly, Feng Xiaotao realized that Cao Shuang was definitely not a blind cat who met a dead mouse, but had a premeditated plan. After the event announcement was issued yesterday, he took himself straight to Longji Snow Mountain to collect frozen stones. This ability to predict the unknown. Could it be that he is a reborn person? It's impossible, such nonsense only happens in novels. And it's not scientific either. This is my secret, it's better you don't know. Cao Shuang grinned and did not continue talking to her about this topic. But the seeds of doubt have been planted, and sooner or later they will bear fruit. Then what should we do next? Stay here and wait for the boss to refresh. Don't be stupid, Longji Snow Mountain will soon be invaded by countless players, and this hidden map will also be discovered soon. The two of us can't keep such a big secret. Quote, Cao Shuang also wanted to stay here, but his strength didn't allow it. In this case, it's better to sell this information as soon as possible and make a final profit from him. Hearing this, Cao Shuang's eyes lit up. Why didn't I think of this, Xiaotao, you are simply a genius. I'm just scared of being poor. Crazy Xiaotao raised her neck, looking quite proud. But at this moment, Ah Yin, who was silently alert to the surroundings, frowned. She noticed that there were many strange smells in the Death Ice Cave. Mr. Sir, there is someone. And there's a lot of it. Cao Shuang frowned slightly, you came so fast. No one can stop me from getting rich, Xiaotao, silence me. He made a gesture of wiping his neck, his eyes narrowed slightly, flashing a dangerous light. I try my best. After receiving the order, Crazy Xiaotao rushed towards the entrance without hesitation. Cao Shuang clicked on several friend boxes and quickly sold the information. Ah Yin, you go back to the martial soul space first to replenish your soul power. Ms. Sir, I can still fight. Obedient. Cao Shuang's tone was tough and he didn't give Ah Yin any room to refuse. Unless absolutely necessary, he did not want to expose Ah Yin's combat power. Besides, 5 golden soul rings are too abnormal. He still understands the truth that even if a tree is beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy it. When you should hide your clumsiness, you have to hide it. The dragon hides in the abyss, and when the wind and clouds meet, the dragon lurks out of the sea, smiling proudly for 9 days. The other side, the entrance to the ice cave of death. Boss, there is a hidden map here. Let's go in and take a look. A group of players jumped into the ice cave. A moment later, a shrill scream spread throughout the ice cave. They were killed instantly without even seeing the enemy's face. Tianshuang City Resurrection Point. You actually dare to attack our axe gang, brothers, shake us off. An arrow that pierces the clouds, thousands of troops come to meet you. Chirp, pop. As the signal bomb exploded in the air, countless players with the suffix of the axe gang began to gather towards Tianshuang City. Tianshuang City is already crowded with a large number of players who come to escape the summer heat. This time it seemed even more congested. The momentum is so huge, what are these people doing? Whatever, let's go and eat some melon and watch a show. The world is so hot right now, and there are Balrog monsters that spawn at any time. I won't go out for a walk. The voices in the crowd just finished. The teleportation array once again lit up with light. The next moment, a group of beautiful players appeared in everyone's sight. Their goal was clear, and as soon as they stepped out of the teleportation array, they rushed towards the dragon's back snow mountain. It's Yanyu Pavilion's large army. Beauties, wait for me. Brother, didn't you just say that it's hot and dangerous outside the city and you shouldn't go out for a walk? Ahem, cough, cough, man, he has ambitions all over the world, how can he miss such a blessing because of a little difficulty? Seeing these graceful figures, all beauties with fair skin and slender thighs, the onlookers instantly transformed into licking dogs and rushed to catch up. The arrival of Yanyu Pavilion seems to have opened the floodgates of the dam, and it is out of control. A large number of players poured into Tianshuang City from all directions and charged towards Longji Snow Mountain. In addition to coming to appreciate the beautiful players, more importantly, some people discovered the function of the frozen stone. In the trading house, the price of frozen stone has been soaring. Seeing that it is about to break through 100 gold, ordinary players who reacted immediately rushed into the snow mountain to seize the territory. A stone costs 100 yuan. Isn't this more than earning a part-time job? Soon, the price of frozen stone will catch up with gold. You must go ahead and occupy the monster spawning spot before others react. With this purpose in mind, countless players flocked to Longji Snow Mountain, and the scene was extremely spectacular. However, what surprised them was, where are the monsters? Where is the boss? What idiot cleared the entire map of monsters? Do you want to be so crazy? Ice Cave of Death. Cao Shuang and Feng Xiaotao hid in a dark corner behind the ice wall. Whenever a player falls from the top of the cave into the cold pool, the ice soul bow in Cao Shuang's hand will strike mercilessly. Coupled with the influence of the cold poison in the special map, most players may have bottomed out their health bar as soon as they surfaced. If a lucky person climbs onto the shore, Crazy Xiaotao will suddenly appear and kill him. The pair cooperated tacitly and miraculously held on for more than 30 minutes. Holy shit, my hands are sore from pulling the bow. Why aren't these axe gangs done yet? Xiao Dao, do you know their background? Cao Shuang asked quietly while shooting. I don't know, I haven't left Tianxing City very often. The game world is too huge, with major cities scattered all over the world, accommodating nearly more than 100 million players. Just exploring the map near a main city can already give players a lifetime of work. Naturally, there is no time to pay attention to the affairs of other main cities. This can also reflect the power of Tianji Pavilion founded by Lao Bai from the side. This old boy is definitely not an ordinary person. Ding! Bai Shokai sent a private message. Bai Shokai. Brother Yi, you are crazy, the price of frozen stone has gone crazy. One-page book. So, are you here to show off? By Shokai. No, don't forget the well digger. Brother Yi has provided me with such amazing information, and I must express my gratitude. If it weren't for Brother Yi, Tianji Pavilion wouldn't be able to earn so many gold coins. One-page book. The prerequisite for you to make money is your trust in my information. How much you can make depends on your own courage and has nothing to do with me. But, since you said so, then I have to do it. It's hard to accept. By Shokai. Well, Brother Yi is really a wonderful person. I wonder what Brother Yi wants. A one-page book. The more soul rings, the better, regardless of year or grade. By Shokai. This is not a difficult task for me. I can use the proceeds from this profit to help Brother Yi acquire the soul ring. But Brother Yi, it's not by who talks too much. The final outcome of betting on dogs is very miserable. As the saying goes, money and silk can move people's hearts. I would advise Brother Yi to exercise some restraint. There are many examples of people jumping off buildings after failed fusion. Quote. One-page book. Yeah, got it. Closing the chat window, Cao Shuang continued to focus on the battle. Fusion failed. Stop joking, okay. With our little red hands taking action, there will be no loss making transactions. Who is it? How dare you go against our axe gang? You have eaten the courage of a bear's heart and a leopard. Get out of here immediately. A group of elite players broke into the ice cave angrily. They were surrounded by a transparent barrier and remained intact when they fell into the cold pool. Cao Shuang knew that this was a hard time. Crazy Xiao Tao was about to launch a sneak attack, but he stopped him. That's the crystal shield of the rock-type auxiliary spirit. Its health and defense are very high. We can't kill them in a second. Let's just wait and see what happens. Hearing this, Crazy Xiao Tao silently put away the thunder sword and slowly retreated into the depths of the ice cave with Cao Shuang. Cao Shuang is right. Not only did this group of players come well prepared, but all of them were level 1 or above. The leading player named Kuntai was even Gundam level. Apparently they were all elite senior members of the Axe Gang Guild. If we go head to head, they will definitely suffer. But just as the two of them were about to disappear into the ice cave, Crazy Xiao Tao's footsteps suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows slightly and turned to look. Crazy Xiao Tao pursed her lips and took out the thunder sword again, with a strong killing intent in her eyes. Looking in her direction, Cao Shuang was stunned for a moment. At the end of his sight were two familiar figures. Aren't these Zhao Laosin and Li Si who drugged Crazy Xiao Tao? It's true that enemies are on a narrow road. You go away, I will handle it myself. Seeing those two people, Crazy Xiao Tao's tone turned cold. Hate is hate. Even if she loses both sides, she will make these two despicable people pay the price. What? Do you treat me like an outsider? Cao Shuang's face darkened. I don't want to get you involved. For some reason, Crazy Xiao Tao didn't dare to look directly into Cao Shuang's eyes, as if he had a guilty conscience. This feeling was very unfamiliar to her. Very strange feeling. Never before. It can't be love, can it? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Cao Shuang snorted softly. Do you still treat me as an outsider? I'll assist in a while, and you'll be the main attacker. If I lose my rank, you'll have to take responsibility at that time. Quote. Well, I will be responsible. A warm current passed through my heart. Crazy Xiao Tao lowered his head to hide the curved corners of his mouth. That fool Cao Shuang actually cared about her. While the two were talking, a group of people from the Axe Gang had already swam to the shore. Zhao Laosin and Li Si followed the crowd, shouting arrogantly. After all, they have strength in numbers. You dare to attack our Axe helper, are you tired of living? If you offend the Axe Gang, the grass on your grave will be 3 meters high next year. The leader, Kuntai, who was thin but covered in tendons, saw that the two younger brothers he had recently recruited were so supportive of the Axe Gang, and he suddenly felt that he was getting more face. But the other boys were very unhappy. Since these two licking dogs came to the Axe Gang, it can be said that they have perfected their flattery skills to the pinnacle. Every time there was a fight, he would hide behind the crowd and act like a gangster. After the fight, they immediately jumped out and started talking nonsense, making it seem like the two of them were the ones who worked the hardest. It was so disgusting that no one was willing to pay for their lives. The key is that the boss Kuntai is still following this trick and is becoming more and more interested in these two fools. In fact, these two guys had a slight tendency to become the second in command of the gang, which made them very angry. But little did they know. It is precisely because of these two guys that the Axe Gang has attracted two extremely vicious evil stars. The 7th soul skill, Martial Soul True Body. The 6th soul skill, Thunder Curse. Thunder Lord, help me. Boom. There was a sound like the earth was shattering, and a bolt of thunder appeared out of thin air and struck the younger brother behind Kuntai, instantly turning him black. Followed by crackling. The lightning was raging and the thunder snakes were dancing wildly. A majestic and domineering figure in yellow robes appeared in the air, its arms stretched out, terrifying lightning condensed in its palms, exuding a destructive aura. Holy shit. What the hell? Run. Zhao Laosin and Li Si turned around and ran away. Any hesitation for even a second is an easy disrespect for the brothers. Why panic? The 3rd soul skill, Giant Rock Iron Shield. Kuntai shouted loudly, flicked his wrist, and a solid rock shield more than 3 meters high suddenly flew up. Bang! The yellow light flashed and the boulder shattered. The devastating thunder collided with the indestructible shield, erupting into suffocating energy fluctuations. Click! The shield in Kuntai's hand was instantly filled with cracks and then shattered. How can it be? He suddenly discovered that there was a strange waning moon mark in his status bar. The waning moon. Defense decreases by %. Kuntai couldn't help but curse secretly. What the hell is this thing? If % of the defense is weakened, how can anyone play with it? The originally impregnable rock shield was now as vulnerable as a shoddy project. Crazy Xiao Tao was also confused. When did I become so powerful? Not only was Kuntai confused, but even Crazy Xiao Tao was in disbelief at this moment. Looking back at the initiator, Cao Shuang saw a crescent moon mark on his eyebrows and a faint smile on his lips. The 2nd soul skill, New Moon, Rise. A translucent crescent moon slowly rose from Crazy Xiao Tao's feet, and then slowly rotated around her. Ding! Affected by the player in the team. 1-page book, soul skill, gain the buff effect, power of the new moon, damage increased by %. What a terrifying attribute bonus. Is this a mythical auxiliary spirit? It's simply ridiculously strong. Crazy Xiao Tao couldn't help but marvel, but she forgot that Cao Shuang's soul ring was a 100,000-year soul ring. The superposition of the two can produce such a heaven-defying effect. Are you Crazy Xiao Tao? Suddenly, Kuntai, who was standing at the far end, narrowed his pupils sharply, pointed at Crazy Xiao Tao and exclaimed. Affected by Cao Shuang's celebrity effect, Crazy Xiao Tao's information was also widely circulated among major forces. As soon as the iconic martial spirit of the great virtuous master came out, he was recognized by people. Shen Luwei, Zhao Laosin and Li Si also exclaimed. Yesterday, taking jujube pills took off the mask on Crazy Xiao Tao's face, revealing her true face. The stunning appearance immediately aroused heated discussions in major game forums. The two people soon recognized that the now famous Crazy Xiao Tao was the bar girl from back then, Shen Luwei. Ha ha ha, you can't find anything even if you wear iron shoes. It doesn't take any effort to get it. Crazy Xiao Tao, tell me the location of the book and hand over the mythical martial spirit. I will let the Axe Gang put the past events in jeopardy. Otherwise, you will die without a burial place. Kuntai laughed ferociously. I didn't expect that I would be so lucky today and unexpectedly meet the woman who wrote the book. As long as he takes down the opponent, the mythical martial spirit will be at his fingertips. By then, he will also be among the top players in the server, which is exciting to think about. But he was obviously overjoyed. All beautiful fantasies are based on the premise that he has the ability to defeat the opponent. Trash looking for death. Crazy Xiao Tao's pretty face is filled with frost. Boom. Thunder trembled, strong wind surged, and the shadow of a golden warrior emerged from behind her. The 5th soul skill, Huang Tian. Heaven is dead, Huang Tian shall stand. Roar. The golden giant roared angrily and punched Kuntai. The 1st soul skill, Earth and Rock Wall. Kuntai was so frightened that he felt like he was dead. He hurriedly released his soul skills to resist, but it was of no use at all. Boom. With one punch, the golden giant directly smashed the earthen wall as brittle as tissue paper, and landed heavily on Kuntai's chest. Dash exclamation mark. PFF'd. Blood sprayed out. Kuntai fell to the sky, and fell into the cold pool behind him, not knowing whether he would live or die. One punch and defeat the enemy. The crowd around him was silent, staring blankly at crazy Xiao Tao, unable to speak for a long time. Come on, glory and wealth are right in front of you, why are you standing there? Zhao Laosin cheered loudly. His words made all the younger brothers tremble, and then they rushed over one after another. Suddenly, purple and yellow soul rings unfolded layer by layer. The seventh soul skill, martial soul true body. Everyone used their strongest soul skills in unison. Player level is a threshold. Because the soul skills of the seventh soul ring are always, martial soul true body. The martial spirit's true form can fully unleash the full potential of the martial spirit. Not only will the damage defense be doubled, but various values such as blood volume, soul power, speed, etc. will also be doubled. We are now closing the gap with players below the level. Therefore, only players above level 1 can become core members of major guilds. As the 16 younger members of the Axe Gang activated their respective martial souls, crazy Xiao Tao suddenly felt an invisible pressure. At this moment, the strongest assistant took action again. The first soul skill, Huan Yu. A pink full moon fell from the sky and enveloped the 16 members of the Axe Gang, instantly freezing them in place and unable to move. See this scene. Crazy Xiao Tao, who has a strong sense of combat, instantly realized that Cao Shuang was helping her. So he immediately used his strongest killing move with his sword. The third soul skill, Ghost Wei. The fourth soul skill, Chain Lightning. Martial Spirit Fusion skill, Thunder Prison. Crazy little Dao's delicate body swayed slightly, her hands forming seals. In an instant, 9 ghost figures condensed out of thin air and threw out 3 lightning chains at the same time. Lightning bolts converged into a dragnet, forming a death zone. Thunder Prison is coming. Ah! Miserable wailing could be heard endlessly, and more than a dozen players were all beaten to the point of losing their health. What's even more frightening is that they can't resist. I can only watch as my blood volume is reduced to 0, and then turned into ashes. In just the blink of an eye, except for Zhao Laosin and Li Si, who were the fastest runners, all the others were slaughtered. Hiss. Seeing this scene, the two of them were so frightened that they collapsed on the spot, dripping with cold sweat. It's too strong, and there's no way they can match it. Sister, it was all a misunderstanding before. And isn't it all over again? Today is a complete coincidence. Zhao Laosin cried and begged for mercy. After being scolded by Cao Shuang in the bar the day before yesterday, he made too much noise and attracted the attention of the police. The result was that the Black Dragon Gang disintegrated overnight, and his subordinates fled as fast as they could. The Black Dragon Gang was even annexed by the Axe Gang from the next province. In order to save his life, his former boss had to become Kuntai's pawn. Now, he has no arrogance and domineering arrogance at all, only the vicissitudes and desolation after being beaten up by society. If you come out to fool around, you will have to pay it back sooner or later. There is a saying that cuts the grass but does not remove the roots, and the spring breeze will bring forth spring again. What do you think? Feng Xiaotao's eyes were cold and he walked towards the two of them step by step with a long sword in hand. Zhao Laosin, who was forced into a desperate situation, suddenly became hysterical. You fool, you can kill me once at most. After I come back to life, I will make your information public, and you will be dead by then. The second-generation ancestors of the immortal dynasty can't find you in the game. Could it be that they can't find you in the real world? Ha ha ha, come on, kill me. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng Xiaotao suddenly stopped in his steps, seemingly hesitating. Zhao Laosin suddenly felt happy, feeling that he had hit the key point, and quickly continued to lobby. As long as you let me live today, from now on you will take your Yangguan road and I will take my single plank bridge. The water in the well will not interfere with the water in the river. How? Crazy Xiaotao gritted her teeth and struggled in her heart. Although she didn't want to admit it, she really didn't dare to gamble. Once her real identity is revealed and she is targeted by the second-generation ancestors of the immortal dynasty, she will inevitably die without a burial place, just like Zhao Laosin said. Moreover, Cao Shuang will also be implicated. She hesitated. Not so good. Suddenly, an indifferent voice came from the side. Everyone turned to look and saw Cao Shuang, dressed in night clothes, walking slowly over. But wearing night clothes or not seems unnecessary. Zhao Laosin knew without guessing that this guy was definitely a one-page book. Besides him, who else can appear in pairs with Crazy Xiao Dao? One page of book, what do you mean? Is it possible that you want to disregard your woman's life and death? As soon as these words came out, Feng Xiaotao's face turned red. I am not his woman. Haha, Zhao Laosin, do you think I'm stupid? Cao Shuang sneered. Don't you think you will keep your promise if I let you go? Trash like you has no credibility. The corner of Zhao Laosin's mouth twitched, and then he became angry and shouted, then what do you want? Cao Shuang grinned and showed a demonic and evil expression. Take off all the soul rings on your body as collateral, and return them after we are completely safe in 3 days. Hearing this, Zhao Laosin's face suddenly became ferocious, and he stared at Cao Shuang with an angry look. Don't bully others too much. His soul ring is 3 purple and black, which can be worth several houses if converted into gold coins. This is his last chance to turn around. How could it be handed over so easily? That's not up to you, Jia, why don't you take a look at what this is? Cao Shuang smiled strangely, and suddenly took out 2 crystal fragments and threw them at the feet of Zhao Laosin and Li Si. Zhao Laosin subconsciously picked it up and took a look. The result was tragic the next second. Ding! The resurrection array is activated, the temporary resurrection point is successfully bound, the time limit is hours. A one-page book, are you cheating on me? The two of them sadly discovered that the resurrection point was actually tied to the ice cave of death. Now they are both in trouble. No matter how many times you are killed next, you can only be resurrected here. As long as Cao Shuang wanted to, he could even kill the two of them to level 1. Cao Shuang grinned, showing his white teeth. Hand over the soul ring, or clear the level. It's your choice. Zhao Laosin and Li Si looked at each other, both seeing the other's helplessness and pain. If he had known this, he would not have been as happy as the Axe Gang and died directly at the hands of Crazy Xiao Tao. Now, we are in a dilemma. Give. Why don't I give it? Zhao Laosin was finally defeated and reluctantly threw away the soul ring in his hand. Brother Zhao, are you really giving it? Li Si was obviously unwilling. Nonsense. Zhao Laosin glared at him fiercely. What else can I do if I don't give it? Kill you to level 1. Will the equipped soul ring be able to explode when the time comes? Quote. Hearing this, Li Si looked at Cao Shuang with hatred on his face distorted by unwillingness. He remembered this grudge. Now, can you let us go? He took a deep breath and suppressed the humiliation in his heart and asked. Of course, please do. Cao Shuang shrugged his shoulders and didn't mind at all. The two breathed a sigh of relief and turned to leave. Zheng. At this moment, the thunder sword made a trembling sound. Then, Crazy Xiao Tao flicked his wrist and disappeared instantly. PFF'd. There was a muffled sound as the sharp blade cut through the skin, and blood spurted out. 2 heads were thrown high. With a flash of white light, the 2 people's levels dropped from 70 to 69, and they appeared in the resurrection array. 1 page of books, you don't trust me. You are despicable. The 2 roared angrily, pointed at Cao Shuang's nose and cursed. I didn't kill you, why are you scolding me? Cao Shuang looked confident, and even slapped him directly. I kindly let you go, but you still scold me. I can't stand it anymore. I'll risk my life. He rolled up his sleeves, rushed forward and beat him violently. Feng Xiaotao stood aside, enjoying the farce with great interest. Soon, the resurrected 2 people appeared again. I'm tired of beating you, come on. Cao Shuang waved his hand with a look of disgust and asked Crazy Xiao Tao to finish the attack. The 2 people who had not yet reacted were killed again when they raised the knife and dropped it. 1 page book, Crazy Xiao Tao, you will die a happy death. Adulterers and adulterers, you will be punished sooner or later. Ah, I hate it. The shrill screams resounded throughout the ice cave, which was horrifying. Crazy Xiao Tao, on the other hand, swung his sword expressionlessly, sheathed his sword, swung his sword again, and sheathed his sword again. The scene was once extremely brutal, like a slaughterhouse. Kuntai, who was not dead yet, quietly poked his head out of the water. But after seeing such a terrifying scene, he retreated silently. This couple of fools are simply not human beings. I would rather freeze to death than suffer this torture. Kuntai gritted his teeth and secretly swore that he would never provoke those two evil stars again. Not long after, Kuntai, who was already low on health, died silently in the cold pool due to the continuous blood loss caused by the cold poison buff. As Kuntai left the ice cave first, the true identity of Crazy Xiaotao in the real world also began to cause an uproar in the game forum. Poor Zhao Laosin and Li Si didn't even have a chance to retaliate, and their homes were stolen by Lao Lu, who was silently hiding in the grass. The two people who were forced to return to Novice Village because their level dropped by 10 levels were almost furious. Lingyun Villa. Lin Xian was wearing a sky blue fringed skirt, with a solemn look in her beautiful eyes. Below are the CEOs and department heads of the companies under the Ling Group. Mr. Ling, after a century of heavy rains in the south, our real industry has suffered huge losses, and the stock market has plummeted. I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on. Mr. Ling, our film shooting plan was forced to stall and investors withdrew their capital. Now we are in a critical state of broken capital chain. We must convene a board of directors immediately to solve it. Mr. Ling, the group's main business, real estate, has also suffered serious losses due to the recent frequent natural disasters. One piece of bad news reached her ears, causing Lin Xian's eyebrows to frown more and more tightly. Even though she is a strong woman, she can't help but feel breathless. There is always an illusion that a huge business empire will fall apart in an instant. Enough. Ling's father, who was sitting on the left and the real helmsman of the Ling Group, Ling Haishan, slammed the table. His eyes that were not angry and self-awesome were scanning the whole place, and the noisy venue suddenly became silent. I'm here to listen to you solve your problems, not to listen to your cries. After saying that, he looked at everyone present with cold eyes. The meeting is over. In 3 hours, I want to see your solution. If you can't hand it over, get out of here. Wow. Following Ling Haishan's order, the huge conference room suddenly became chaotic. Everyone rushed to escape, fearing that if they were too late, they would be killed as a chicken to scare the monkeys. After everyone was gone, Ling Haishan sighed softly and rubbed his temples. Alas! Overnight, the group suffered from internal and external troubles, and he looked much older. I'm sorry, father, I didn't manage the company well and made you worry about it. Lin Xian pursed her lips and apologized to Ling Haishan in a low voice. Silly boy, it has nothing to do with you. Ling Haishan waved his hand and said earnestly, natural disasters and man-made disasters are beyond the control of individuals. If God doesn't reward us, what can we do? How have you been with that fool recently? Well, this sudden topic made Lin Xian a little confused. That's it, what's wrong, father? The Jai family is mainly engaged in e-commerce and the internet. The impact of this natural disaster was the least among the 4 families. They are willing to inject capital to help us tide over this difficulty. I leave the choice to you. Tell me what you think now. Hearing this, Lin Xian's dark eyebrows instantly twisted into the character, Sichuan. She was also curious about why her father, who had always been so impersonal, suddenly became concerned about her personal life today. It turns out he was waiting for her here. It's more like compulsion than choice. Why should the Jai family help the Ling family? It's not just that she suffered a lot. Ling Haishan used the safety of the entire Ling group as a threat to force her to submit. Compared with Ling's mother's petty tricks, Ling's father is the old fox with a deep character. Although Ling Xian saw through her father's intentions, she just couldn't resist. Father, which one is more important to you, the Ling family or your daughter? Ling Xian was not that easy to offend, so she just threw the question back. Whether you want a family or a daughter, it's your choice. If she chooses to take over the family business, it will directly break Ling Xian's heart. She will definitely refuse to obey and there will be no room for negotiation. If you choose a daughter, it would be best to just give up the marriage between the 2 families. Ling Haishan was obviously confused. After a moment, he slowly said, the Ling group is the lifelong effort of your father, your grandfather, and your great-great-grandfather. Even if you try your best, you must guard it. So, you chose family business, right? Right. Ling Xian smiled bitterly, tears falling from the corners of her eyes. I see. Lin Xian stood up and bowed to Ling Haishan to say goodbye. A trace of guilt appeared on Ling Haishan's brows, but he didn't say much. In 2 days, someone from the Ling family will come to discuss the details of the engagement. I hope you can cooperate with me then. Ling Haishan gave a simple instruction and directly chose to log off. Ha, I still cooperate. Lin Xian snorted coldly, a fierce look flashing in her beautiful eyes. Since you are unkind, then don't blame me for being unjust. 3 hours later, in Lingyun Xiaoju, the bosses of various companies came online again. Before they could even begin to describe how to save the company, Ling Xian was the first to speak. Everyone, let me announce something. According to the group's latest decision, we will slowly sell off the real industry and move to the virtual world. One stone stirs up 1,000 waves. Ling Xian's decision sounded like a muffled thunder in everyone's ears. Enterprise transformation is no joke. Once it fails, it will be an abyss. Nonsense. After a brief silence, Ling Haishan became furious. Boom. He slapped the table hard, shocking everyone. Why didn't I, the largest shareholder of the group, receive the news about such an important decision? Xian, you still can't represent the entire group. Ling Haishan's eyes were spitting fire and his face was filled with anger. I know. Ling Xian's face was calm, as if she had expected it. If you want me to marry the Jai family, this is the condition. Father, Jai, Zhao, and Nangong have entered the virtual industry in recent years, and the huge profits they have earned are obvious to everyone. Now is our Ling family's chance to make a comeback. Instead of filling those bottomless pits, it is better to take this opportunity to transfer assets and get new life. Speaking of this, Ling Xian paused for a moment and continued. The phoenix rises from the ashes and is reborn from the ashes. This is our only chance, father. The loud words echoed in the empty hall. The other shareholders, including Ling Haishan, all looked thoughtful. Ling Xian is right, the real industry now depends on the weather. Who knows if other natural disasters will come? The risks are high and the profits are small, so it is better to join the virtual industry. Not only is it stable, but it also offers huge benefits, so why not? As for the loss of transferred assets, if you want to achieve great things, you have to give up and gain, but there is nothing you can do. After thinking clearly about the pros and cons, shareholders fell silent and began to consider a transformation plan. Seeing this scene, Ling Xian breathed a sigh of relief, and a slight smile appeared on her pretty face. The meeting lasted for nearly 4 hours, and a preliminary consensus was reached, but the specific details still need to be gradually improved. But I believe that Ling Haishan will be surprised to find out soon. The huge family fortune will no longer belong to him. After leaving the venue, Ling Xian strolled alone among the pavilions and pavilions surrounded by birdsong and flowers. She had a complicated mood, thinking all the way, and went straight to her room. Opening the door, the little secretary Fang Miao has been waiting for a long time. Mr. Ling, the information you want. Fang Miao handed a thick stack of documents to Ling Xian. Ling Xian glanced at it casually and frowned slightly, so many. It has been streamlined. Only 15% of the game world has been explored by players so far. The map is so big, so the amount of data is certainly huge. Fang Miao explained. Ling Xian nodded slightly. Okay, you go and do something for me. A large amount of money will soon pour into Lingyun Xiaoju. I am now the guild president and will give you access to the warehouse. You use the fastest time to help me collect the strongest soul rings, pets, equipment, soul weapons, special props, etc. Also, contact the most professional gold farming group to help me level up. You must move quickly. Don't let the group's shareholders discover the clues. Quote. She spoke a series of instructions, leaving Fang Miao stunned for a moment. Mr. Ling, are we stealing the group's funds? She asked weakly. HMPH, once a mythical martial spirit is bound, it cannot be released. As the only mythical player in the entire guild, shouldn't it be right for the group to train me? The corner of Ling Xian's mouth curled up with a hint of cruelty, and she glanced at Fang Miao with cold eyes. Fang Miao was so frightened that she stopped talking and didn't dare to talk nonsense anymore. I'll do it right away. After saying that, she turned and walked outside. Call. When Fang Miao walked away, Ling Xian let out a long sigh of relief. The plan is finally half completed. To get rid of her predetermined fate, all she has to do is change from a chess piece on the chessboard to a chess player. If you want to be a chess player, you must become the real talker of the Ling family. The conditions for obtaining the group's shares were too harsh, and Ling Xian did not have the ability to seize them. Therefore, she found a new way to integrate all her family assets into the virtual industry. And through seemingly reasonable means, all resources are poured into himself. By then, Ling Haishan would still be reluctant to give such an important core asset to the Jai family. By the way, Mr. Ling, there is also some information, please take a look. Fang Miao Miao left and came back, and took out another document and handed it to Ling Xian. Well, you get busy. Ling Xian nodded, lowered her head and read carefully. Crazy Xiao Tao, female, martial spirit, Zhang Jiao SS, real identity, Shen Luwei, photo.jpg. How could it be her? Seeing this information, Ling Xian frowned. If she is Crazy Xiao Tao, then Cao Shuang is just a page of a book. For a moment, Ling Xian felt her head buzzing, as if she had received a huge impact. How can this be? Twin myths, how did he do it? One-page book, Crazy Xiao Tao, it's better to meet in person than to be famous. Hand over the mythical martial spirit and let your woman accompany me for one night, and I will let you live. Otherwise, Jia, inside the Death Ice Cave. The Qianlong, whose shape resembles Kakarot, stared at the two young men and women in front of him with a lewd expression. All the equipment on the body was glowing with cool light, which once made people think it was a walking flashing disco light. Not only him, but also the other players of the Immortal Dynasty look like this. Anything that can exude a cool luster is undoubtedly the best equipment. I have to say that these second-generation ancestors of the Immortal Dynasty are really rich. It was Crazy Xiao Dao who was looking at her with murderous intent and drooling from her mouth. If all these people are defeated, how many good things will come out? She licked her lips, and the green fierce light burst out from her pupils, like a wild beast that chose people to eat. The Immortal Dynasty moves very quickly, but it's a pity that you are not the protagonist today. The ethereal words sounded, and immediately a tall figure fell from the sky. The white clothes are fluttering, smart and elegant, like a fairy descending to earth, standing elegantly. Yanyu Pavilion, second in charge, Fairy Fuyao. Looking at the peerless beauty in front of him, Qianlong's face was a little gloomy. And this sugar owner, Love Eat Marshmallow, followed closely behind, carrying a pink sledgehammer and smashing it directly between the two parties. Hee, it's a one-page book. Isn't this sugar owner here quite timely? Love to eat marshmallows while banging the hammer, while looking at the people of the Immortal Dynasty with a smile. As Fairy Fuyao slowly landed beside her, a large number of female players from Yanyu Pavilion also arrived one after another. In an instant, the lineup of Yanyu Pavilion grew stronger and competed with the Immortal Dynasty. Hey, everyone is here, it's quite lively. Kiki, I'm not too late, right? A clear and sweet voice came, and two figures descended from the sky. Wearing a red dress, she has a delicate body. Wearing a black robe, he looked domineering. Everyone in the Immortal Dynasty looked ugly. Why are the vice presidents of the three kingdoms and the black fox here? What's the situation? The immature fox gently waved his jade fan, his eyes full of cunning. Shuren didn't blink and was even more simple and crude. He flicked the flying knife in his hand and plunged it directly into the ground at Qianlong's feet. This place belongs to our three countries. Friends of the Immortal Dynasty, please move aside. Thank you for your cooperation. Qianlong was furious, but he didn't know what to say. He dared to mess with anyone at the scene, except this guy. The top assassin in the server. Once you mess with this person, you will live in fear of death for the rest of your life. Although Qianlong was arrogant, he was not stupid enough to cause trouble for himself. The key point is that the Immortal Dynasty cannot afford to offend superpowers like the Three Kingdoms. It is said that the president behind them, I am Sao Thief, is the second-generation ancestor of a certain military region. In the face of absolute rights, no matter how rich you are, it is just a piece of paper. There is also a level gap between the second-generation ancestor and the second-generation ancestor. My goal is a one-page book. This matter seems to have nothing to do with you, right? Qianlong gritted his teeth, but his tone was much softer than before. Qianlong, I have to remind you about something. Shuren still looked careless, but the words he said made Qianlong tremble all over. Mythical martial souls are different from ordinary martial soul beads. Once bound, they cannot be released. Even if you kill a page of the book and return to Novice Village, you will get nothing. What? The expression on Qianlong's face froze instantly. Doesn't that mean that all my work has been in vain? Are you an idiot? Marshmallow lowly glanced at Qianlong with disdain, curled her lips and said, if the mythical martial soul could be captured, several of our guilds would have taken action long ago. Is it your turn to bark at the immortal dynasty? Who are you calling a dog? Qianlong was furious and stared at Marshmallow fiercely. Whoever responds is a dog. Marshmallow retorted with a sneer. You. Qianlong was so angry that he was speechless and wanted to tear the woman to pieces on the spot. Tang, don't be rude, a lady must act like a lady. Fuyao opened his mouth and lightly scolded Marshmallow, and then gracefully saluted the page of the book, ignoring the angry Qianlong. Is the news about the young master true? Cao Shuang naturally knew what the other party wanted to ask, so he nodded at her. Understood. Come here, clear the place. Fuyao smiled faintly and immediately raised his hand to give the order. In an instant, hundreds of elites from Yanyu Pavilion directly activated their martial spirit true form. Suddenly, the entire cave was filled with all kinds of brilliant lights. The purple-black soul power of the 10,000 soul ring and the 10,000-year soul ring were intertwined, causing Qianlong and everyone in the immortal dynasty to change their expressions. Hey, what do you mean? Seeing Fuyao's actions, Qianlong felt insulted. No one has ever dared to ignore him like this. To directly expel people as stragglers is really too much of a deception. Literally, get out of here. Fuyao snorted coldly, his perfect face hidden under the white hat, revealing a mysterious flavor. Asshole, how dare you look down on me? After all, Qianlong was the crown prince of Kyoto. How had he ever suffered such humiliation? He shouted angrily and wanted to teach everyone in Yanyu Pavilion a lesson. Young Master Jai, I advise you to leave so as not to be embarrassed. I don't know when, a black dagger was pressed against Qianlong's neck, and the cold touch made the hairs all over his body burst. What? When? Qianlong was so shocked that he couldn't even detect when the other party made his move. He took someone's head quietly. If the other party wanted to kill him, he wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Young Master Jai, these two groups are not easy to deal with. It is best to take action. The loser next to Qianlong suggested in a low voice, fearing that he would start a fight if he disagreed. Then there will be no room for maneuver. HMPH, I will remember today's grudge. Taking a deep breath, Qianlong snorted coldly, turned around and led the people away with a gloomy face. Qianlong knew very well that there was no point in staying here anymore, he would only be asking for trouble. But he really couldn't figure it out. Why did the Three Kingdoms and Yanyu Pavilion suddenly appear and force themselves back? There must be something shady going on here. Young Master Jai, shall we continue to hunt down Yi Yishu in the future? After walking out of the Death Ice Cave map, a loser approached and asked. Kill, why not kill? Qianlong gnashed his teeth, his face ferocious. If he doesn't kill a page of the book, the resentment in his heart will never be quelled. It has nothing to do with martial arts. The relationship between us has been completely forged. If we let a page of books grow, we will definitely be our enemies in the future. So, even if we pay a huge price, we must nip this person in the cradle. Qianlong clenched his fists, his eyes were scarlet, like a beast that chooses people to devour. But at this moment, a younger brother suddenly squeezed through the crowd and came over. What a happy event. Young Master Jai, we have a very happy event. Goddess Ling has agreed to a marriage between the two families. Goddess Ling will be your fiancé from now on. Hearing this, Qianlong, who was originally full of anger, was stunned for an instant. Really? Qianlong's breathing became a little hot, and his heart was beating fast. It's absolutely true. Now the whole Kyoto has gone crazy. Ha ha ha, is Xian finally truly moved by me? Qianlong looked up to the sky and laughed, tears flowing from the corners of his eyes. For so many years, Jai Junji has been deeply in love with Ling Xian and only wanted to marry her, but he has never been able to do so. Now, he finally got his wish, and the beauty he dreamed of finally agreed. Excited, he chose to log off on the spot. The Jai family courtyard. Dad, Mom, is it true that Xian promised to marry? As soon as he entered the door, Jai Junji couldn't wait to ask his parents, with a bright smile on his face. However, when he saw a young man sitting in the living room, his smile instantly froze. "Brother, you are back." Jai Junji forced out a forced smile, looking a little embarrassed. Since he was a child, he was bullied by his two brothers at home. Even after growing up, the shadow of childhood has not diminished by half. "Xiaoji, you came just in time. Your eldest brother's engagement party will be held in 2 days. Please attend it with your brother." Jai's father spoke kindly, with a touch of majesty in his tone, which put great pressure on Jai Junji. "Oh, got it." Jai Junji was now preoccupied with marrying Ling Xian. Apparently he didn't hear clearly what his father had just said, so he asked casually and perfunctorily. "Dad, when will the marriage between Xian and I be arranged?" In the living room, the Jai family was full of questions. It was Jai Bombing who reacted first. "Xiaoji, Xian will be your sister-in-law from now on. Don't say such nonsense, otherwise, I, the eldest brother, will not be happy." "What?" Boom. Jai Junji's mind felt like a thunderbolt from the clear sky. "Ling Xian is marrying her eldest brother. How so?" "I disagree." Jai Junji's face suddenly changed, he couldn't help but became furious, almost going crazy. "The one I love becomes my sister-in-law, God, why should I be treated less like this?" I disagree, I firmly disagree." Snapped. Jai's father slapped Jai Junji hard on the face and yelled, "Why are you shouting so loudly? You have the right to speak here." Jai Junji was stunned and his lips trembled. In the end, I couldn't even hold in my fart for a long time. Under the suppression of his father and elder brother's bloodline, he had no choice but to accept the reality. But he was obviously not willing to let it go. "Keep them all waiting for me. I will definitely get back what I lost." Ice Cave of Death. Hey, this one-page book is said to be exclusive news. Why are people from the Three Kingdoms also involved? Marshmallow put his hands on his hips and pouted his pink mouth, a little annoyed. "Kiki, little sister, there are only absolute interests in this world. If the price is enough, any agreement can be broken." A sweet and light laughter came. A black fox in a red dress came in with a slim waist, her seductive eyes slightly narrowed, flashing with colorful ripples. She stepped forward and looked down at Sugar Loli, her charming red lips opening in a seductive arc. "Let me make it clear first, I only said there are important clues about the main line of the event, but I didn't say it was exclusive." Cao Shuang interrupted the tit-for-tat confrontation between the two women and stepped forward as a mediator. "What do you mean?" Marshmallow was suddenly furious. He kicked the ground hard with his little feet and stared angrily at the page of the book. "Don't lose your temper, otherwise the little bear won't grow up." Cao Shuang pinched Marshmallow's chubby face and smiled. "You fart." Clearly, Marshmallow was not convinced by the one-page book's advice. But she turned around and glanced at the chests of Fuyao, Fox, and Crazy Xiao Tao. Then he looked down at his insteps. She gradually doubted life. Is what he said true? Girls with bad tempers really can't grow up. Okay, let's get down to business. The Shrimp Brother smoothed things over and brought the topic to the point. "Okay, then I won't hide it and talk about my cooperation plan." "Cooperate?" Fuyao raised her beautiful eyes slightly and frowned slightly. "Don't think about being exclusive to one company. If you have the ability to compete with all players on the server, just pretend I didn't say anything." Cao Shuang shrugged and spread his hands, looking indifferent. Fuyao and Shuren looked at each other, and both saw the solemnity and fear in each other's eyes. Judging that the next message in the one-page book was not easy, he immediately asked his subordinates to stay away from alert for the time being. 10 minutes later, when several people learned that the hidden boss in the ice cave dropped the main material for shooting the sun arrow, their eyes suddenly became fierce. No wonder a one-page book proposes cooperation between the two major guilds. Once the news is revealed, they will definitely become the target of public criticism. Even though it is as strong as the Three Kingdoms, it does not dare to be an enemy of all the players in the server. But if the two major guilds unite, there is still hope that they can give it a try. Thinking of this, Fuyao asked the most critical question that everyone was most concerned about: how to distribute the income. Shuren stared at the page of the book, waiting for his reply. "It's very simple. I just want an ice dragon's horn, plus an intelligence fee of 30 million gold coins per person, and 30% of the profit from the frozen stone. The rest will be shared equally between the two of you. As for how long you can hold the monster spawning point, it depends on your ability. Quote. Cao Shuang is not as open as a lion. He knew very well that at this moment, Longji Snow Mountain was already occupied by densely packed players. It was only a matter of time before the hidden map of the Ice Cave of Death was discovered. Not to mention the importance of the sun-shooting divine sword, the frozen stones that can be seen everywhere in the Ice Cave alone are a huge income. If there are no two major guilds guarding the entrance, the news will be blocked. He and Crazy Xiaotao alone cannot stop the impact of hundreds of millions of players. When the time comes, not only will the success be defeated, but he and Crazy Xiaotao will also have to join in. Therefore, after some weighing, Cao Shuang chose win-win cooperation. What do you two think? Fu Yao and Shuren looked at each other and nodded slowly. Cao Shuang's request is very reasonable. This information is worth the price. Kiki, little brother, I think I need to add one more. At this moment, the black fox covered his mouth and started laughing. Everyone turned to look at her questioningly. The black fox's smile is as charming as a flower. Fu Yao and Fang Xiaotao frowned frequently due to his pretentious appearance. You say, if an inevitable fight breaks out, you and your little girlfriend must help. No, eldest sister, I'm just a level 59 trumpet, so I can't help you much, can I? Kiki, I don't care. The black fox covered his mouth and smiled. Disgusting. When the three girls heard this, they felt goosebumps and felt chills. Cao Shuang's head was full of black lines and his heart was tired. This woman is really not easy to fool. You have to take him into the water and take the risk. Now that the matter has come to this, Cao Shuang has nothing to say. The worst thing he can do is show his face, touch a fish, and fool him. Okay, I will take action if necessary. That's okay. The black fox stretched out his slender finger and ticked a page of the book. This ambiguous behavior made everyone itchy and wanted to give the other person a slap in the face. However, the real CPs of Cao Fox didn't say anything, and they weren't very talkative either. After the discussion, everyone started working on their own. Players holding the title of Three Kingdoms and Yanyu Pavilion quickly gathered towards the Snow Mountain. The realm deep in the snow-capped mountains was blocked by the two major guilds and became their exclusive place to spawn monsters. Ordinary players are already used to this kind of outrageous behavior, but it didn't cause much reaction. Apart from a few mild scoldings, almost no one found fault. Part of the reason is that Crazy Xiaotao's true identity was exposed. The beautiful appearance and the experience of being a bar girl form a great contrast. The popularity on the forum even overshadowed the event itself. Of course, most of them were insults and abuses towards Crazy Xiaotao, and there were also some obscene rumors. What about 300 a night, shouting brother sharing videos, V50 selling seed resources, etc. Unsightly. After returning to Tianxing City, Fang Xiaotao has been silent, lowering his head and browsing the game forum. She did not speak out to defend herself, nor did she cry or seek death. It was as if she had lost her soul, which was heartbreaking. Cao Shuang knew that Crazy Xiaotao was stimulated. He sighed and patted her shoulder. As long as there is no morality, morality cannot restrain you. Don't pay attention to these rubbish remarks. Fang Xiaotao suddenly sneered, what are you talking about? Cao Shuang was startled for a moment and looked at the forum interface she opened. Shocked. The price of frozen stone exceeds 100, and it is expected to reach 200 gold. If you buy it now, you will make money. Aren't you reading those rumor posts? Why should I look at that thing? Fang Xiaotao's tone was indifferent, as if she had long been used to such remarks. Not to mention this, I have collected so many freezing stones before. Do you want to give me half of them? Cao Shuang scratched his head in embarrassment and changed the subject with a smile. Ah ha ha ha, the sun is so bright today, hee 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 hee. A total of 365,923 frozen stones, give them back to me. You're a calculator person, you remember it so clearly. Give it back. If you don't return it, it will be confiscated. I'll fight you. Oh shit, don't bite. Quote. The streets are bustling with people. The two were noisy. The scenery is surprisingly harmonious. Night. Villa living room. Just like in the early morning, the three of them played a game of whoever cooks dinner becomes the puppy. But this time, Ling Xian was obviously prepared. Fang Miao Miao walked into the kitchen carrying large and small lunch boxes. After a while, the table was filled with delicious dishes. Mr. Ling, Quanju's 5-star chef personally cooks the food. How do you like it? After saying that, she handed the chopsticks to Ling Xian. Ling Xian raised her eyebrows proudly. Let's eat something together. Okay, Xiao Dao, let's have dinner. Oh. Ling Xian shook her red wine glass and her expression suddenly stiffened. According to the normal development of the plot, shouldn't they be stubborn and refuse to eat, and then watch her enjoy the food in frustration? Why are these two guys so thick-skinned? Mr. Ling, eat it. You're welcome. It won't taste good after it gets cold. Cao Shuang picked up a piece of chicken butt and put it into Ling Xian's bowl. Quote. Mainly anti-customer. Ling Xian's veins throbbed on her forehead and she wanted to hit someone. But now is clearly not the time. Because, if she doesn't use her chopsticks, the table full of delicacies will be wiped out by these two hungry ghosts. After meal call. With a long sigh of relief, the three of them rubbed their slightly bulging bellies and collapsed on the sofa with expressions of satisfaction on their faces. Are you a page book? Suddenly, Ling Xian said such a sentence. Cao Shuang seemed to have expected it and was not too surprised. Instead, he nodded slowly. If I say no, you don't believe it either. Ling Xian pursed her thin lips, and her eyes flashed with a dangerous light. In just half a month, not only did his temperament change drastically, but he also became a man of the hour in the virtual world. This had to make her wonder, could it be that Cao Shuang was taken away by an alien creature? Who are you? Hearing this, Cao Shuang smiled contemptuously and said, I am your father. Quote. Puff. Shen Luwei couldn't help laughing, and then she quickly covered her mouth and lowered her head guiltily. Ling Xian's anger rose and she clenched her fists tightly, wishing she could smash Cao Shuang's head with one punch. Boom. At this moment, a huge explosion suddenly came from somewhere in Kyoto, and the whole city trembled. What the hell? What's going on? Cao Shuang jumped up in fright, thinking that the end of the world was coming early. The other three were also a little confused. Diao Chan. Husband, I feel a powerful wave of soul power. Ah Yin. Sir, the soul power floating in the air seems to be getting stronger again. Cao Shuang. Are you sure it's not an illusion? Can't go wrong. The two women said in unison. Cao Shuang squinted at the blazing fire rising out of the window, and a hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Do you know something? Ling Xian came to him, with a question on her pretty face. Who are you? How much do the recent natural disasters have to do with you? And the explosion just now? Cao Shuang shrugged. You've read too many novels, you know. Let's go, Xiao Tao, take the number. Oh, wait, tell me clearly. Ling Xian stretched out her hand to block his way. Cao Shuang had no choice but to explain patiently. If I really had the ability to move the wind and rain, why would I still need to hide in this small shabby house and live my life? I would have run away to save the world long ago. Ling Xian frowned. It seems to make sense. But I always feel like something is weird. Then let me change the question. How did you get twin martial spirits? I'm not your father, why should I tell you? You. Okay. Cao Shuang waved his hand impatiently. I don't have time to play spy house with you here. I still have very important things to do. He turned to leave. Ling Xian grabbed his wrist and said, 100 million. Cao Shuang stopped, turned to stare at her, and raised the corners of his mouth with a faint smile. Mr. Ling, you want to buy my secret for 100 million, isn't it too cheap? As soon as these words came out, Ling Xian's face showed a hint of joy. As long as there is room for negotiation, price is definitely not an issue. She urgently needs to become stronger so that she can use it as a bargaining chip to threaten her father and gain freedom. Then tell me, how much is appropriate? Ling Xian was silent for a few seconds, then slowly released her hold on Cao Shuang's hand, her gaze fierce. Don't think about twin martial souls, but you can consider a million-year soul ring. Million-year soul ring. Fang Miao Miao screamed in surprise, her face full of shock. She had never heard of anyone in the game being able to smash a million-year soul ring. In 100,000 years, it has been sold to tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of gold coins. Millions of years, what an astronomical figure that must be. Once upon a time, the president of the Forbidden City spent 5 billion angrily, hoping to get the last 2 soul rings to reach the million level. As a result, all the 22 red soul rings collected at great cost failed to fuse. In the end, not a single one of the ring, including the main embryo, was left. Compensation means losing everything. Since then, few players in the game are willing to try to reach 1,000,000 soul rings. Wouldn't it be nice for him to spend 5 billion to acquire SSS-level soul skills, mythical equipment, and mythical martial spirits? Even if it is used to cultivate power, it is enough to rank among the top guilds in the entire server. Even if you calculate this account with your toes, you can still understand how to choose. As time goes by, no one is willing to try to attack the million-year soul ring. What price? Although Ling Xian was a little unbelievable, she still gritted her teeth and asked. After all, this is related to her future destiny. Cao Shuang thought for a moment and quoted a price acceptable to both parties. 1 billion. Make a deal. Ling Xian agreed without hesitation. Hey, when did you become so rich? 1 billion without blinking an eye. Cao Shuang raised his eyebrows in surprise. He remembered that Ling Xian was only responsible for managing the Ling group, and all the shares in his hands were in the hands of Ling Haishan, and the funds at his disposal were even less. Why did you suddenly become so proud today? You don't have to worry about it. How long will it take to deliver the goods? Ling Xian asked in a cold tone. Have you read Journey to the West? Nonsense. Ling Xian rolled her eyes at him angrily. As a result, the next second, Cao Shuang patted her head 3 times, and then pulled Shen Luwei away. What does it mean? Ling Xian was stunned, unable to react. She touched her forehead where she was hit, and it took her a long time to realize. Is this a hint for her to go to his room to find him in the middle of the night? Bah, stinky scoundrel. Ling Xian cursed angrily, her face turning red. This guy must be playing tricks on her. Meow meow, prepare funds. Ling Xian took a deep breath and put the shame and anger behind her. The temptation of a million-year soul ring is too great. Even if it's a scam, it's still worth the risk. Mr. Ling, do you really believe his lies? Even if he is a 1-page book, he can't get a million-year soul ring, right? Ling Xian's eyes flickered for a moment. I believe he can do it. Forehead. Could it be that Mr. Ling is obsessed with love? Do you believe such nonsense? Stop nagging, go quickly. Ling Xian shouted sharply. Also, send someone to investigate what happened with the explosion just now. Yes, midnight watch. The door handle of Cao Shuang's bedroom turned slightly. Ling Xian quietly entered the room. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.